Good evening, and welcome to the 6 p.m. Special City Council meeting of May 13th, 2025. Please note all council members are present. With that, I'm going to turn the time over to Vice Chair Heyer to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please take a moment of silence with me. Thank you. Up next, we have some acknowledgements, and I think we are going to, Carolyn, did I see, oh, there you are. I'm like, I thought I saw Carolyn come in. Carolyn's with the Goal Foundation to talk about hospitality. Thanks.
Yes, I see so many familiar faces. It's been, 12 years since I retired. Doesn't seem possible. And there's still familiar faces here. That's really good. Anyway, in case you haven't heard, the marathon is this Saturday. And I just wanted to update you guys on a couple of things that we're doing. I'm a volunteer for Goal, and Troy Callentine would have been here, the executive director, but he's kind of got his hands full. So the expo that we have been having on Friday that goes from like 8 in the morning till 8 at night, maybe 10 in the morning till 8 at night, I'm not sure on the hours, has been up at Weber State at the field up there, and the indoor field, and it will be at the conference center on Friday. And so you're going to see a whole bunch of traffic, a whole bunch of foot traffic, a whole bunch of people around town, and we hope this is going to be a good move for help the businesses downtown, you know, the local businesses, and get the runners familiar with the downtown area where the finish line is. So the marathon itself, same route, same awesome, beautiful route. Our marathon is like in the top 10 in the United States. Runners love it, being able to run down the canyon. And the only change is at the finish line, instead of coming straight through onto Grant and going in front of the courthouse, the finish line will turn. The finish line will be in the same location as it has always been. But then the runner chute will turn to go up 25th Street. So this will affect all of you, because I know you all want to come to the Lounge on the Line, and I have credentials for you to get in. Come for breakfast or come for lunch or both, whichever. You will have to look for signs. It'll say Lounge on the Line, and it will direct you to go up and around the end of the chute, and then in front of the federal building. And where the tent is, where it's always been, right at the finish line, there will be a red carpet. You are all being treated like royalty, okay? So just look for the red carpet. If you're on the other side of the chute, you might not be able to see it very good, but once you get over by the federal building, you'll be able to see the red carpet. So we invite everybody to be there. Bring a partner, bring a friend. We've got a dozen credentials here. If you bring a friend, you don't need one, pass these out. If you can't make it, give it to someone who wants to come and have front row seat and awesome food from Union Grill. Breakfast will be served at 6:30 and lunch about 11. So hope to see you all there.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so glad you said that. That's the first thing on my list, Hall of Fame. So I was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2015, and Jenny Scothern, who was the executive director at that time, said, "Oh, Carolyn, now will you be in charge of the Hall of Fame?" So every year we have the people who are in the Hall of Fame. We have a committee, and they accept nominations. You know, they send it out to all the runners and all the sponsors, and we get nominations, and then we determine who is going to be inducted for that year. And this year, Greg Scothern, former Ogden City employee, is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Greg, for years and years, he served on the board. He was there almost at the very beginning when Gold took over the marathon. And he, for like 13 years, he ran the marathon start up by Red Rock. Is that where it is? Yeah. And great organizer, great guy, so full of energy. And when I was interviewing him and asking him why, how did he get involved? Was it his job? What was it that got him involved? And he said, the people. I had friends, and I made more friends, and it was the lifestyle I wanted in Ogden. They didn't live in Ogden at the time. And so he got involved and took charge, and just really is deserving of being inducted into the Hall of Fame. So if you see Greg around, pat him on the back. Thank you.
I do have a quick question about, do you know what the bus service and where it might go? I'm assuming we'll still be able to get on the bus, but it crosses
The bus
Washington, I
the
think?
bus service, like UTA bus service?
Yeah.
They will have signs at each of the bus stations. There will be a roadblock each, like 25th Street will be closed from Grant to Washington, and then Grant will be closed from 23rd to 26th. Anyway, if there are bus routes within that area, then there will be signs that UTA will post. UTA is really involved in the marathon, so they will post signs. Peripheral routes will all still be running.
Great.
Okay? Any more questions? The marathon is sold out over a month ago. 8,000 runners. So, yeah, they love Ogden.
Thank you.
And I love Ogden.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have public hearings for the proposed fiscal year 2026-2030 5-year consolidated plan. I don't usually say it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kathy Fuentes, a Senior Community Development Coordinator. I am happy to have your time today to consider for adoption the 5-year HUD plans. There we go. Thank you. Okay, which will consider the 5-year consolidated plan, the annual action plan for fiscal year 2026, the neighborhood revitalization strategy area, the public process that we followed, and Own in Ogden program guideline changes. So the 5-year consolidated plan is for the time July 1, 2025 to June 30th, 2030. The con plan is the mechanism which the city receives HUD funding. It's an application to HUD for CDBG, which is the Community Development Block Grant, and the Home Grant entitlement status. It's a strategic planning tool, and it identifies the priority needs in our community and defines goals and objectives and outlines the programs and projects to be funded with HUD funds. It's important to note that if it's not specified in the con plan, then HUD funds cannot fund the activity. And the con plan is adopted through a public process. The current 5-year consolidated plan has brought in, the city has received over $19 million from our entitlement status with HUD. As of today, HUD has not announced our entitlement awards for fiscal year '26. So the proposed annual action plan draft contains entitlement award amounts using this year's dollar amount and a contingency plan we'll discuss as we go along. When the actual entitlement awards are announced, then the con plan and action plan will be updated using the contingency plan, and then it will be submitted to HUD. It's to be submitted on May 15th, and if it's approved, then our funding is available on July 1. So this is really the summary of what the con plan is about. We have the Community Development Block Grant and the Home Grant, and the primary objective of the HUD grant is to provide decent, affordable housing. So the city is proposing a housing purchase, rehab, and resale program with the goal to preserve the naturally occurring affordable housing in Ogden. This is a housing rehab program. And then we have an emergency home repair program. This is assistance to low-income homeowners that have an emergency event in their home. And then we have infill housing, new housing construction, and then the Own in Ogden down payment assistance and program, which includes homebuyer education. The next HUD objective is to create suitable living environment. And under that category, we're proposing the target area public improvement projects. This can be improvements to streets, trees, sidewalks, and parks in low to moderate income census tracts. And then under the HUD objective, create economic opportunities, we have the Small Business Loan Program, which is job creation and job retention activities. And then we have a Micro Enterprise Assistance Program. These are loans and technical assistance or business education for low to moderate income micro enterprise business owners. And then we have special economic development projects. These are projects selected to address a specific need. So this is the actual outline of where funding will go for the next 5 years with our HUD funds. The annual action plan is for July 1, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. And the action plan is the implementation plan, the first year implementing of the 5-year consolidated plan. It details the budget for the year, identifies the programs and projects the city intends to carry out, and outlines the HUD goals for the year. And if an activity is not specified in the action plan, then it cannot be funded with HUD funds. An amendment would be required to change, delete, or significantly modify a program, beneficiaries, or budgets. And the first annual action plan is embedded in the 5-year plan, so it's actually one document. So this is what our annual action plan looks like for the year. We have our housing purchase, rehab, resale program with $1,806,459 of CDBG, $912,151 of home grant, $374.69 of home match. And our goal is to renovate 5 homes and sell those to low to moderate income households. We have the emergency home repair program with $40,000 of CDBG funds, and our goal is to assist 5 low-income homeowners. We have the Own in Ogden program with a budget of $250,000 of home dollars and $100,000 of home match. And our goal is to complete 30 down payment assistance loans for the year. We have the infill housing program, target area public improvements, and special economic development projects that do not have a budget in fiscal year '26, but are in the 5-year consolidated plan. If we want to do, we're going to be proposing a project within the 5 years, but not in the first year. And we also have the Micro Enterprise Assistance Program, which is $250,000 of CDBG, and our goal is to assist 5 micro enterprise owners during the year. And we have the Small Business Loan Program with $350,000 of CDBG, and our goal is to create or retain 5 jobs for the year. And then we have the Tenant-Based Rental Assistance Program. This is the one-time Home American Recovery Plan grant that we received because we are an entitlement community, and our balance is $846,370, and our goal is to house 22 homeless persons during the year. And our administration budget is $737,645. And so this is our contingency plan. The housing purchase, rehab, resale program will be the balancing budget. So when our entitlement amount award is announced, we're currently using the current one, it will adjust either up or down compared to how much money we receive from HUD for the next year. And then the administration adjusts automatically by formula. So that is what we're proposing for the annual action plan for the year. Any questions on that, or should I wait? I'll do questions at the end.
Any questions right now? All right.
Okay, we got the neighborhood revitalization strategy area for July 1, 2025 to June 30th. So the purpose of the neighborhood revitalization strategy area is to create communities of opportunity in distressed neighborhoods, to stimulate reinvestment in our community, and to strategically plan projects that have the greatest impact to our community. The benefits include there's less reporting for businesses that are creating jobs in the NRSA, and there's more funding available for businesses that create jobs. The option to use HUD funds to create a balance of housing types is available only in the NRSA. Those are the benefits. And then why we've chosen these census tracts. So we have census tracts 2008, 2009, 2011, 2012, 2013, block group 1, and census tract 2013, block group 2, and census tract 2018. These census tracts were chosen because progress has been made to improve distressed neighborhoods. The city has had 5 racially or ethnically concentrated areas of poverty and have reduced that to 2 in Ogden. So a renewed NRSA will help support this trend. The NRSA has community support, citizen involvement, and ongoing government, private, and commercial stakeholder investment in this area. Although mostly residential, the NRSA has commercial areas that expand economic opportunities. These census tracts show a great potential for transforming distressed neighborhoods into neighborhoods of opportunity, and the NRSA strategy has been effective, and we're renewing the current one with these census tracts, and it's recommended to help keep that momentum going that we've seen, the progress we've made. So this is the public process that we started in October of 2023. It's hard to believe that. It's been a year and a half. We had 4 citizen advisory committee meetings. We had 4 city council work sessions, 2 public hearings. We have, today would be the second. We had 14 presentations to community groups. We've received 57 written comments, and 213 people took our priority needs survey. So we also, our outreach included 30-day public comment period, a priority needs survey, social media. We used QR codes and social media for the first time. We used the At Your Service newsletter, and we did information booths at community events. So that is our presentation. We'd like to submit our plans to HUD on May 15th. If it's approved, then on July 1, our funding is available. In the fall, we will do an amendment to our action plan, which will again present to you the changes that may have happened with our new entitlement award. And then the fiscal year ends on June 30th, and then our performance report will be available in September of 2026. So any questions about our HUD plans?
Any questions?
I've got a couple questions, and I think you kind of addressed this in the work session. We were talking about it too, Kathy, but do you or the team have any concerns about any new federal policies or changes that might impact this?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we really don't know what to expect. The last news that we received from HUD was that the continuing resolution that Congress passed on March 15th will continue our funding for another year at pretty much the same level. It is based on a formula, so we know we will get an adjustment, but other than that, we really don't know what's going to happen with HUD. Our HUD region office has remained intact. We did hear that there's been quite a few of releases from FHEO and from the state offices, but our regional office that manages the entitlement grants is still intact. So, but we don't know what to expect.
Yeah, is there any kind of contingency planning? Or
I'm sorry, what was that?
any kind of contingency planning for if a major portion gets removed or all of it? Or?
We are working on that. So, yeah.
Kathy, I just had a question about the tenant homeless rental assistance plan that you have. So are those considered HUD funds as well? Are they administered through HUD? Are they administered through the city?
Yes, they are HUD funds that were granted to the city through the American Rescue Plan grant. So it was a one-time federal grant, but it went through different departments of the federal government, and HUD received some. And then as an entitlement community, we received it. So it is our grant, but we did do a request for qualifications and then selected the Ogden Housing Authority to operate that on our behalf. So it is our grant, but it's been administered by the Housing Authority. And our goal was to assist 22 persons, but we've had over 70 housed because what we focused on was the school district, and we asked the school, tell us about your homeless children, and we went to outreach to those families. So we have a lot of families housed with over 70 people that were literally homeless and are now in housing. So it's about 27 households that are currently housed with over 70 people total.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I have a further question on that too. Can those people who are homeless, can they also apply for other subsidies through the federal government or through the
Definitely,
state?
yeah.
And Ogden Housing helps them negotiate through that application process?
You know, they do have caseworkers with that, but their staff is pretty slim right now. So they're doing the best they can to help them outreach. We are helping them to get on the Housing Authority wait list. So when these funds run out, they will have another opportunity.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Great.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing, so if anybody wants to come up and talk about these, or this item in specific, or in particular, please feel free and state your name for the record.
Hi, Travis Pate. I'd like to congratulate Kathy on the success that she's seen, and she and I actually hired into neighborhood development the same day, September 10th of 2001. Uniquely enough, there was something that happened the next day which kind of changed the world and changed the dynamics, but Kathy, I had the opportunity to work with her for 2.5 years as an intern with neighborhood development. And so to see the continued success from then till now and actually the leaps and bounds in the programs, particularly even with the neighborhood revitalization strategy area, I know that's a lot to say, is a new tool that has allowed her department, so to speak, and the rest of us to celebrate. I think Stonehill was part of that project area. There's so many things that I've seen that has helped our neighborhood. So I think if we say, what are we prioritizing and what's our backup plan, then we probably need to say, let's see what our successes are, and let's continue to mirror those, but let's see what we can do on amended budgets, and that we might tighten our purse strings, so to speak, from that thing. So I endorse highly this project area. I caution the aspect where it says a balance of housing types. On the RDA agenda, I think later this evening, there's a chance to build 101 more market housing apartments. Okay, a balance of housing types. So we study the apartments. I think we need to do an inventory of apartments and say, are we going to use the SAR funding and some of those other HUD funds to continue to add apartments? Yes, it's density and it's in closer to the right area where we want it, but is there really a need for more apartments? And so that's the only part that I would caution on, is if any of the HUD fundings for the balance of affordable housing. Naturally occurring, 2637 is a house right here on Adams Avenue. It still exists, but when the developer comes in and proposes, hey, let's just tear it down, and they just say, let's tear it down with no history, that frightens me. It's the Gilchrist family home. He was an engineer for the UPR Railroad. But then again, it's in this project area for the neighborhood revitalization strategy area, and we're going to spend money for it. So, like I said, I celebrate the entire plan, but I think we need to be cautious and say, let's see what our successes are. Are we successful at apartments? Successful apartment building? Does that lead towards home ownership? but a balance of home ownership, an existing house that we're just going to tear down without even researching the history of it. Pretty sad. So I would say yes to the entire plan, but say please be cautious. And anytime someone comes to us and say, let's use city money, let's use the RDU money, what exists on the property? What's the history behind it? Do we need to preserve setbacks? Do we need to preserve line of sight? The city plan calls for view corridor and vista preservation. So please be mindful of that. Thanks.
Thanks, Travis.
Laura Lewis, Ogden City resident. That topic about the apartments coming in came up. I was involved in a conversation about population growth in Ogden. And we have built a lot of apartments and more to come. And I looked at the population growth for Ogden and it is going down. Do you guys follow that when you make decisions on approving these developments, and just something to keep in mind?
I'm Joseph Bauman. I'm a longtime resident of Ogden City, and a couple of questions I have, and I called Kathy and I spoke with her for a long time here several weeks ago when this first came out. A couple of questions I have to dovetail into what they're talking about with these apartments. The infill housing, is that strictly for single dwelling houses, or is it multiple housing, for example, an apartment? So if I had a lot that's 3/4 of an acre or 2 acres or whatever, I could build apartments in there.
We'll answer your question after a minute.
Yeah,
Is that your question?
Yeah, that's my question, if I could build apartments on the infill, or is it only for single housing? Because take, for example, the one that's up by the Catholic Church up on 24th Street there, that there's single homes that are in there, but they could have put apartments in there, and it could have housed, 150 units or whatever. And it could have been in the city, the zoning would have allowed a 3-story apartment building. So potentially there could have been more than that. So that was one question I have. And then the other item, the budget for the homeless is $846,000 and change for 22 people. And if you do the math on it, that's $38,000 a year per person, per homeless. So I'd like to know how that's budgeted and where that number came about to figure that out, because that seemed way exorbitant to me. You could buy a person a home and put them in it for that kind of money, for $38,000. If that includes food and furniture and all the other type of stuff. Then also on that homeless, has any thought been given to tie that in with the Veterans Administration with some of their programs? Because I know there are a lot of vets. They're homeless. So that was another question I had, if they tied that in. Thank you.
Thanks, Joseph. We'll answer all those in a minute. Is there anyone else? Oh, thanks. There's somebody online, ending in a 267.
Hi, Linda Sanchez. I was just also wanting to comment about the apartments. The concern that I have is that we have quite a few up, and some of the people that I've talked to that are being housed in the apartments, they're really sometimes not that affordable. And some of the young kids that I've talked to, I mean, I guess we've all been in apartments before when you can hear your next door neighbors and all the things going on, that I don't know how conducive or to like a family kind of a setting. The question that I have is, what is Ogden City doing? Are we putting like layers, like sound barriers or stuff like that? I know that we were trying to go like away from like trying to do housing in a different way. And it just seems like some of those apartments, they have like the apartment rent, and then they have all these added fees, which makes it's more than my house payment. So I just don't know how that's actually adding up. And then those that have children, I just don't see that many that have any resources for the children to play outside or to have activities outside. It just kind of concerns me, and I wanted to know, what is the city doing to try to combat the high density, people on top of people, affecting mental health, that type of thing, and so that we're not hearing everybody else's issues, which is why, me personally, I wanted to get my own house so I didn't have to hear my neighbors' issues. If you guys could help me out with that, I would appreciate that.
Thanks, Linda. Anyone else? No?
Chair, not seeing any other movement, I'd make a motion to close the public hearing on this matter.
Second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Ritchie, second by Councilmember Myers to close the public hearing. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Yeah, Kathy, if you could come up, there's a few questions that you might be able to answer, and then some I'm not sure we can.
Hi, Kathy Fuentes again. Thank you for your time. The comments were, a lot of the comments were regarding apartments. So the 5-year consolidated plan has no projects for apartments. So the item that is RDA, and that is a completely separate funding source. So I really can't address that on what the RDA is doing. But for the 5-year consolidated plan, our housing programs are specifically geared towards preserving the naturally occurring affordable housing, which is defined as the home was originally built for a low-mod income household. The home is currently in a census tract that is a low-mod income census tract, or is currently owned by a low-mod income census tract person. So our programs are usually single-family homes. There is a possibility we could do a project that would assist our community housing development organization with apartment renovations for subsidized housing apartments. That is the only time that we do apartments with our HUD funds, and we have nothing scheduled with our HUD funding for apartments. And I cannot address the apartment issues, but for HUD funding, there's no funding going towards apartments. It's all to preserve our naturally occurring affordable single-family homes. Thank you.
Chair, do we mind asking Kathy about the homeless fund? There was a couple of
Oh, yeah,
questions
sorry.
about that.
Yeah, thank you, because I was trying to get through this.
I was trying to get you before you walked away, but you were too fast.
What was the question?
So how did you come up, I think the question was, how did you come up with the budget for the homeless fund?
Oh, okay.
And the
Thank you
22
for reminding me. Yes, the Home ARP grant is a one-time grant, and that is not a one-year dollar amount. That is, it's actually probably going to be 4 years of housing. So each household can get assistance for 2 years. So it's not a one-year budget, it's a 4-year budget. So, and we're just going to use that money until we run out. That money is available for veterans. Actually, veterans are a subcategory specifically identified by HUD to receive assistance. So we'd be happy to receive applications from veterans for that funding.
Could I ask a question while we have her too? Mm-hmm. How does one apply for that assistance?
Yeah, that would be through the Ogden Housing Authority. You just call them and tell them you need a homeless tent assistance, and they can direct you there.
Okay, thank you.
I'm
Thanks.
curious about that, just to follow up, because I know when people are categorized as living without a home when they're in the school district, it has a little bit of a different definition than maybe our homeless providers would give. You know, I know, for example, a family or a child might be counted as homeless if they're like couch surfing or if they're living in a place that's not their family's home, etc. So do you know if that's the categories
Sure.
that
Yes.
qualify, or is it more the service provider definition?
Yeah, it's actually, HUD has its own definition, so it's
Okay.
very specific. So they are literally homeless, or they are at risk of homeless, would be somebody who is couch surfing. and overcrowded, more than one person per room, or, I'm sorry, I can't recall the
No, yeah,
exact
that makes
definition.
sense. Yeah,
Yes,
matches that a little bit
those
more.
are the qualifying populations. So, and veterans also have, and then people fleeing domestic violence and day violence also are a special category under that definition that can receive assistance.
Great, thanks, Kathy.
I think those are all the questions for you. at
Thank you.
least. I don't know that we can answer the population growth question. Yes, I think Ogden is staying pretty stagnant in its population growth. However, we've got a lot of cities that are around us that are growing. But I do know that we're already in deficit of housing, so trying to have people that really want to live here, be able to live here, so. And then, I don't know how to even answer the apartments or sound barriers of the density, so, sorry. And we might have to have a better discussion offline. I don't know how to answer that, so. Anybody else know how to answer? Other than maybe design standards around some of the,
I would just say Ogden City's not building those apartments. They would have to be built to the building code. That's all I could respond.
I think that was going to be just my comment, is that it is easy to say they're building that and, or we're building, you know, or we're approving, and as you look at each individual case, they're all a little bit different, and if somebody owns property that's zoned for apartments, they're going to be able to build apartments. That's how it's going to be. And, you know, as far as who's building what, you got to look at each individual circumstance. They're all a little bit different.
all right. Any other comments?
Ready for a motion?
Yeah.
Chair, I'd make a motion that we adopt proposed resolution 2025-8, adopting the 5-year comp plan.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Heyer, second by Councilmember Blair to adopt proposed ordinance action plan, proposed resolution 2025-8. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka?
Aye.
Councilmember Graff?
Aye.
Councilmember Myers?
Aye.
Councilmember Ritchie?
Aye.
Vice Chair Heyer?
Aye.
Chair White?
Aye, that passes. Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is reports from administration, proposed.
We have the.
Own and Ogden program
Yes.
guidelines.
Yes, that's next. Proposed Own and Ogden program guidelines.
Okay. Hi, everyone. It's Kathy Fuentes again. All right. Thank you for your time to consider our proposed Own and Ogden program guideline changes. The Own and Ogden program is the city's HUD-funded down payment assistance program, which assists low to moderate income people that want to buy a home in Ogden. And the program is designed to increase home ownership affordability. The proposed changes include increasing the maximum liquid assets allowed by an applicant from $20,000 to $40,000. The home buyers can also apply equity proceeds from a recent home sale. No equity cash may be withdrawn from the transaction. So if they're selling a home, they can apply that equity to purchase a home in Ogden and receive the down payment assistance. So those are the only changes that we're proposing to our program guideline changes. Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions for Kathy? All right. This is not a public hearing, so I don't think it is.
It is not. Chair, I'd make
I was
a
gonna-
motion then.
Go ahead.
Just going to say, no questions, but I do appreciate the changes that are being addressed, and I think it'll be good for the program, and this program has helped a lot of people, and so, yeah.
I'll make that motion that we adopt resolution 2025-9.
Second?
We have a motion by Vice Chair Heyer, second by Councilmember Ritchie to adopt proposed resolution 2025-9. This is also a roll call vote.
Councilmember Chaburka?
Aye.
Councilmember Graff?
Aye.
Councilmember Myers?
Aye.
Councilmember Ritchie?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Vice Chair Heyer?
Aye.
Chair White?
Aye, that passes. All All right, next on our agenda are two items that make me kind of smile a little bit. Since, can we take the name off first before we make this?
Probably not.
Okay.
So, again, Justin Anderson, Ogden City Public Services. And the reason we are here tonight is I just want to clarify to the public is not that there's ever, I think, been a question on naming the Marshall White, renaming the Marshall White Center the Marshall White Center, but due to our city ordinances that when a building is torn down, there is a process that we have to go through to ensure that the naming is done properly, so that in the future, if anybody questions it, they can go back and find out that was done. So I actually find this as a huge honor to be able to stand before you tonight, to be able to make this proposal. And so it is proposed that the new community center be named the Marshall N. White Community Center. The name honors Detective Sergeant Marshall N. Doc White, whose legacy of service, leadership, and dedication to the Ogden community continues to inspire us. So, Detective Sergeant Marshall N. Doc White, a respected doctor, a community leader, was born in Humboldt, Tennessee, and raised in Chicago, where he developed a deep passion for helping others. After graduating from the Chicago Northwest Institute of Surgical Podiatry, he served in the Army Air Corps during World War II, before eventually settling in Ogden, Utah. His work in public health earned him the nickname Doc, as he became a trusted figure who cared for the well-being of his local community. In 1949, Marshall N. White made history as one of Ogden's first black police officers, breaking down racial barriers with grace, professionalism, and courage. Outside of law enforcement, he was deeply involved in the NAACP and co-founded the Wall Avenue Recreational Center, which provided a safe space for underprivileged youth. This center reflected his belief in the power of sports, community engagement to deter delinquency. Marshall N. White was also a devoted family man, enjoying activities such as golfing, duck hunting, and spending quality time with his loved ones. Beyond his role as a husband and father, he was a leader, friend, coach, unifier, and hero to many. His legacy is one of integrity, compassion, and selfless service, leaving a lasting impact on both his family and the broader community. In October 16th, 1963, Marshall N. White was shot while responding to a burglary and succumbed to his injuries. His tragic death deeply impacted the city. In recognition of his commitment to the community, the original Marshall White Center, built on property that Marshall N. White and his family lived on during the 1940s and 50s, was dedicated in his honor in 1968, serving as a vital hub for recreation, unity, opportunity, and community engagement for over 5 decades. The center, located at 222 28th Street, became a cornerstone for Ogden's marginalized neighborhoods, offering programs that fostered community cohesion and personal development. It was also the only public building in the state of Utah named after a black individual, a testament to the lasting impact of Marshall N. White. However, over time, the facility faced numerous challenges, including structural deterioration and inadequacy. In 2018, the pool cracked and was closed, further limiting the center's ability to serve the community. Ultimately, these issues led to the center's closure and demolition in 2023. Following extensive community outreach, it was determined that a new community center should be built at the same historic location, ensuring that it continues to serve as a central gathering place for the community while honoring Marshall N. White's legacy. Groundbreaking ceremonies for the new state-of-the-art facility took place in July 2023. And I'll just do a plug that the ribbon cutting and dedication is scheduled for May 22nd at 5 p.m. So the renaming the new center, Marshall N. White Community Center, serves multiple purposes. It's got historical significance, has cultural representation, and it also holds community identity. Naming the center after Marshall N. White not only honors a local hero, but also strengthens community bonds, It provides a tangible connection to our history, inspiring current and future residents to engage in the center's programs and uphold the values of service, leadership, and community spirit that Marshall N. White exemplified. It is with respect that the Ogden City Council is urged to approve the naming of the new community center as Marshall N. White Community Center. This gesture will honor a distinguished member of our community and reaffirm our dedication to fostering a united and vibrant Ogden. The picture I have before you on the right is the new community center. On the left was the original plaque, refurbished, ready to install in the new community center. So with that, I thank you for your consideration.
Thanks.
All right.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I just want to say thanks for a presentation superbly done and well prepared, and that touches the heartstrings of every one of us here today. So that being said, I would like to make a motion that we approve the joint resolution 2025-2 for the renaming of the Marshall N. White Community Center.
Second.
Thanks. We have a motion by Councilmember Meyer, second by Vice Chair Heyer, to adopt proposed joint resolution 2025-2. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Graff.
Aye.
Councilmember Myers.
Aye.
Councilmember Ritchie.
Aye.
Councilmember Blair.
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka.
Aye.
Vice Chair Heyer.
Aye.
Chair White.
Aye, that passes. All right, next on the agenda is the same ordinance.
Yes. Again, as I previously discussed with the rebuilding of the Marshall White Center, on December 13th, 1997, the gymnasium in the Marshall White Center was dedicated to Mr. Bill Lyons Gymnasium, or also called the Lyons Den. It is proposed to continue that legacy and name the gymnasium in the new Marshall N. White Community Center the Mr. Bill Lyons Gymnasium, the Lyons Den. Bill Lyons was a pillar of support and guidance for Ogden youth throughout his coaching and leadership, particularly in the realm of youth sports in Ogden. For decades, he not only coached young athletes and mentored them, he encouraged discipline, teamwork, and personal growth. His dedication to fostering positive development in young people earned him respect throughout the community, making him an invaluable figure in Ogden sports culture. Bill H. Lyons served as the director of the Marshall White Center during the 1970s and 80s. During his tenure, he was instrumental in overseeing various programs, including popular boxing program, which he coached. His leadership and contributions helped make the Marshall White Center a key community hub, particularly for youth, offering both sports and recreational activities. As boxing coach at the Marshall White Center during the 1960s, Bill H. Lyons played a pivotal role in shaping the lives of many young athletes. His dedication to the sport provided participants with discipline, skill development, and a sense of community. The center's boxing program under coaches like Lyons became a sanctuary for youth, offering them a constructive outlet and a safe environment. Naming the gym in the new community center to Mr. Bill Lyons Gymnasium, or the Lyons Den, will honor Bill Lyons' extraordinary contributions to the community. His impact has gone far beyond the basketball court, boxing ring, or sports fields. He instilled life lessons that help shape young people into responsible, confident adults. The name Mr. Bill Lyons Gymnasium, the Lyons Den, reflects both his personal dedication to empowering youth and the fierce spirit which he nurtured the growth and success of young athletes in which he mentored. Bill Lyons' work with local youth inspired countless individuals to reach their full potential. By naming the gymnasium after him, we provide not only a lasting tribute to his legacy, but also create a place where future generations can come together, play, and remember the values that Bill instilled in his athletes: courage, determination, and sportsmanship. It is requested that the Ogden City Council approve the naming of the gymnasium in the new Marshall White Community Center as the Mr. Bill Lyons Gymnasium, the Lion's Den, in honor of Bill Lyon's longstanding commitment to Ogden's youth and community. This tribute will celebrate his legacy and inspire future generations to carry forward the values he worked tirelessly to instill. Thank you for this consideration on this proposal. And again, you can see the old plaque refurbished up there on the, and the new gym up on the TV. So thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Justin.
Ready? Chair, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adopt proposed joint resolution 2025-3.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Blair, second by Councilmember Graff to adopt proposed joint resolution 2025-3. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Myers?
Aye.
Councilmember Ritchie?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Traburka?
Aye.
Councilmember Graff?
Aye.
Vice Chair Hyer?
Aye.
Chair White?
Aye, that passes. Yay. What a great picture, too. Just
Yeah,
Beautiful.
great-looking gym.
all right, moving along here, we have, next on our agenda is the proposed amendment to interlocal agreement with the Redevelopment Agency. I think Sarah Jeremy's, come on up.
Right, good evening, council members. So we're here this evening to present, we'll discuss this again in the RDA board meeting, but we're proposing an amendment to the budget for the Adams CRA, and along with that, amendments to our interlocal agreements with Ogden City, Weber County, and the Ogden School District. You all may remember we've had some discussion around this at a high level when we talked about the Forest Service building purchase last fall, and again at a work session earlier this year in February. So the project area plan and budget for the Adams CRA were adopted back in 2018, and the project area plan lays out a vision for this area as a transitional mixed-use neighborhood that really supports a strong quality of life in the area that connects our downtown with the adjacent East Central neighborhood. The plan has several specific objectives, including strengthening employment in the tax base, facilitating the development and enhancement of housing, supporting the renovation and reuse of historic buildings, and supporting efficient and accessible parking for both the Adams CRA and our adjacent downtown. We are really excited about the progress that we've seen in this particular project area. A lot has happened since 2018, and here are just some of the projects that have been completed in the Adams CRA. These projects include the Monarch Creative Studios and Event Space, the Peary Lofts, Stonehill Homes, the new townhomes under construction on 24th Street, the Dumpke Arts Plaza, and the Nine Rails Creative District. However, we've seen that we continue to have a very strong pipeline of projects for the Adams CRA that could bring additional investment to the area and support the overall vision and objectives that we have for the Adams CRA. Just to mention a couple that are in the pipeline, you all are familiar with the Forest Service building, of course, but we've also looked at some of Ogden's most iconic historic buildings, including the First Security Bank building, which Cache Valley Bank is in the process of renovating, the Bigelow Hotel, which has actually been converted to apartments currently. We know that projects like those two buildings are going to be pretty costly and may require some additional support beyond what the market can bear. We're also looking at a variety of new housing projects in the Adams CRA. And just to speak to some of the comments earlier, we're really interested in supporting a variety of housing types available at a variety of affordability levels. So just a couple that we're looking at currently, a market rate apartment project on 26th Street, which we'll discuss in the RDA meeting as well. We've also spoken with multiple developers about opportunities for sale kind of entry-level starter home townhomes in the general area of 25th and Adams. And then, of course, continuing to look at single-family infill opportunities with our community development division. And as we move forward with managed parking, we're also looking at where there may be opportunities to create more centralized, structured parking in the Adams CRA. Where can we take advantage of maybe even some existing parking assets to provide more centralized parking so that each project doesn't have to come with its own large surface parking lot. So the current budget for the Adams CRA is set at $10.8 million. A portion of that is set aside for housing and administration costs, which leaves us with about $8 million to support various development and infrastructure projects. Much of that budget has already been allocated within this CRA to some of the projects that we talked about earlier. So as we've looked at the pipeline of projects, what we've seen is that the investment we projected when we created the Adams CRA could be larger with the projects that we're aware of today. So the projected investment could increase from the $95 million that we projected when we created the Adams CRA to upwards of $133 million. So with that, with those additional inputs and those projected investments, we're requesting an increased total budget cap for the CRA from that $10.8 million up to $28.5 million. We would keep the project area term the same, so no extension is requested as part of this. The project area would still expire in 2044. And since we last presented to you in February, we've had a number of conversations with our partners at Weber County and Ogden School District just to see how we can do this in a way that works for them as taxing entities as well. And as we've negotiated with them, we've arrived at what we feel like is a very kind of mutually beneficial plan where the entities would continue to participate at 100% through the 10th year of the CRA. And then for the county and the school district, their participation rates would drop to 75%. So what that does is it allows them to start seeing the benefit of some of the new growth and new investment in the CRA a little bit earlier. For the city, we are asking that that participation stay at 90% through the end of the term. And then this is just a summary here of the total participation amounts for each of the taxing entities. On the left, you see the current maximums. And then on the right, we have the revised maximum that each entity would agree to contribute in as new investment occurs and new property tax revenues are generated within this CRA. You also see there the pass-through amounts that the taxing entities would receive once they drop below 100% in year 10, which is actually just around the corner. That'll be in 2027. And then, you know, we've had some really good conversations with the school district and the school board, and just we're reminded of the importance of kind of really trying to illustrate how our tax increment financing tools work. And so we wanted to include this information again here. Just as a reminder, the CRA was created in 2018, and at that time, all of the properties in the CRA were valued at a total of $60.5 million. At the time, the city was receiving about $188,000 in annual property tax revenue from those properties. When we created the CRA, that amount gets frozen, so the city will continue to receive that base year value through the end of the CRA. And then as investments are made in the project area, those property values increase, and what we're looking at here by the end of the CRA is a total property tax value of close to $194 million. Generally, that increase is not possible without the investments that we're making through TIF. We're really using those to catalyze that investment. If we weren't doing that, we would likely see some growth in property tax values, but not to the same level that we're seeing when we're able to use TIF to incentivize certain types of development or infrastructure improvements in a CRA. So at the end of the CRA term in 2044, with that projected new property tax value, that will add about $414,000 in annual property tax revenue just to the city. There are also increases to the county and the school district. So we've included that here just to try to kind of illustrate the growth in property tax revenue that occurs when we can make these targeted investments in our redevelopment project areas. So for the City Council tonight, we're requesting your consideration of an amended interlocal agreement with the RDA, as described with the terms outlined here. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Can you go back to the map just real quick? So it goes all the way to 20th and then all the way to
That's 28th Street, clear at the bottom there.
from Washington to about Jefferson, is that what it?
Yeah, Washington to Jefferson.
Okay.
Yep, and then you see on the north end there, it doesn't run all the way down to Washington. We actually have another older redevelopment project area there called East Washington. So from 20th to 24th Street, this CRA is only from about Adams to Jefferson.
So it fits, I didn't see the Cache Valley Bank, but I see it now. It's in there. Okay. All right, any other questions?
Just a question, maybe clarification. So when this CRA was originally established, and the amount of tax increment that was projected, is it safe to say that we basically have grown that tax increment faster than the schedule? And that we would be running, because as you said, there's most of the remaining budget is already allocated for.
Right,
Yeah.
and we haven't hit that cap yet, but
But
we
we're
have
close.
seen that the tax increment is being generated more quickly in this area than was anticipated by the original CRA budget.
And so that 10-year period, which is actually really a 3-year, if we think about it from today, is in part to maybe capture some of that increase that's already been experienced for those other entities as well as the city, right? 10% to the city until we get through the whatever is proposed as the new increase, correct?
Right, so through 2027, the RDA would continue to receive 100% of the increment that's generated in this project area under the terms of the original interlocal agreements, but then at year 10, we would drop those participation rates so that the taxing entities can get that pass-through and start recognizing some of the growth that we've seen in the CRA.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good, thank you.
Any other questions?
Without any other questions, Chair, I'd make a motion to adopt proposed resolution 2025-10.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Ritchie, second by Councilmember Graff to adopt proposed resolution 2025-10. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Aye.
Councilmember Blair,
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka,
Aye.
Councilmember Graff,
Aye.
Councilmember Myers,
Aye.
Vice Chair Hire,
Aye.
Chair White.
Aye, that passes. Fantastic. All right, next on our agenda is public comments. However, I'm not sure if there are people in the audience, but if, I know that Justin wanted to, or someone wanted to talk about the brown water.
Brady.
I have a sample.
A murky water, there we go. All right,
It looks better now than then.
Give it to
Brady,
All right.
Brady.
Can you get that? Hold up, Brandon. Thank you. All right. Good evening, City Council. I appreciate your time and allowing us to take some time and present on this. So, diving right in. So, giving an update on discolored water overview. So, as many of you are already aware, the city has completed its first phase of replacing the canyon line or canyon pipeline replacement project, roughly around Port Ramp over to the dam. And as of Friday, May 9th, we would have put that line into operation, meaning the Eden wells are back in operation and conveying water through that pipe and down, down the canyon. So with the well line blending with the treatment plant alongside with the increase in demand, this has also brought increased flow and velocity to our system. Obviously, you guys have probably experienced some temperature changes in the last several days, and that increases demand as well. So with that, that causes disturbances in some of the areas of the water system. With subtle changes in the system, this has caused mineral and calcium buildup in deposits to dislodge and manifest in as discolored water. The issue is predominantly in the zone in the northeast area of Ogden, which is mostly comprised of steel lines and cast iron lines. With that, we are continually testing that water in that area, and it remains safe to use. With that, we also have a master plan as a water utility, and in conjunction with engineering, we have identified areas in this area for pipe replacement. We realize the urgency with that. Meantime, our crews are proactively flushing the area in an effort to clear out the system. Okay.
Brady, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Seemed it's because of increased flow, but when you're running the fire hydrants, isn't that increasing it yet again?
It is.
How
Yes.
does that work? Explain
So,
that to my mind.
increased flow and velocity will cause some agitation because of the velocity stirring some of the natural buildup of the mineral deposits or tuberculosis, and tuberculation. Sorry, not tuberculosis. I don't want to. Tuberculation in the pipes. Okay, so tuberculation and mineral deposits, similar to like calcium deposits that you may see forming on your spigots. So, with that, as we open up the fire lines or the hydrants, that allows us to be able to clear some of that out and get some of those deposits that have been agitated cleared out of the system and pushed through the hydrants and cleared out, so that then we can get the clearest and freshest water into the system. As part of that process, we still do testing in an effort to make sure that the water still meets consumable treated parameters of being able to be consumed and used. So,
I know somebody was thinking that, so I thought I better ask it.
Yep.
Thank you for that. But I want to stress what you said, that the water is safe. There's not been a breach somewhere that has introduced something that is not healthy.
No.
It's just bad looking.
Yeah, well, so also with different demands, as the system reacts to different demands throughout the areas, obviously flow direction and patterns will switch, right, depending on different demands throughout areas. And so with that can cause some agitation and disruptions into those mineral deposits that also will cause it to slough at times. At times that might cause a little bit of delay of some of the sloughing of the mineral deposits too. So as those are brought up and manifested through discolored water, we'd like to know about it. Much like this weekend, there was a pretty big influx. I think there was approximately about 100 calls that would have come in between Saturday and Sunday. So we had crews out actively flushing in an effort to clear the system and getting those minerals that were loosened up and out of the system. And so from here, I would imagine over the last several days, we've continued to do that flushing so that those dislodged minerals will continue to clear through the system, and there will probably be a little bit of sloughing from that buildup as we step into the future in the next week or so. And so please bring those to our attention as soon as we can. We want to jump on it so that we have, there again, the cleanest, freshest, purest water we can have in the lines. So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are you getting feedback from any of the residents that called saying, oh, now my water is running clear?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, that's something that we go out there and we're engaging with the residents, and we want to know that's happening. And we've done so.
And just for me, I'm comforted to know that the water is safe for use. Psychologically, I'd have a hard time taking a glass of water that looks like what's in that water jug and drinking it. Has the city got any direction to provide to these citizens with regard to where they can seek and secure clear water, clean water for consumption and bathing children? I got calls. How am I putting my newborn baby in this? Have we got a resource that doesn't cost our citizens money to help them through this transition?
That would be us coming out, flushing the lines, getting the lines cleared to where it's,
So is that opening everything in their home and
Yes,
pushing water
so we
through
would
their
recommend,
system?
as we're coming out and we're flushing the lines, that residents take and open their bath faucets, right? And run cold water, don't run hot water, because that'll ingest it into your hot water heaters, right?
okay.
So you want to take and make sure that you're not running the hot water, and avoid doing like washing of clothes or dishes at the time until you can get the bathtub water to run clear, as we're simultaneously clearing our hydrants too. So it may
Okay.
take a little bit more prolonged time than others, but yeah, that would be our recommendation in those situations. We want to jump on them as quickly as we can.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Chair,
You
can I provide a comment? I want to piggyback on the comments by Councilmember Heyer and Councilmember Graff. When we talk about the water being safe, I don't want anybody to think that we're minimizing the current situation. It's clearly not palatable. It's not acceptable, and it's not good enough. So we recognize that for sure. This was really a serious situation that took. It was an all hands on deck over the weekend. Everybody in the administration and in the water department was involved. The faster the calls came in, the more urgent it became, and our on-call and emergency crews were responding as fast as possible. And this is not an episode or a situation we want to continue to see happening. So I don't want anybody to come away just because we're talking about safety. I think there's a lot of different ways to look at that, but your point's well taken, Councilmember Graff, about psychologically looking at that jar. That's not an acceptable level of water for us. So don't confuse safety with acceptable either, right?
Yep. I want to say, kind of building on that, as we were pulling samples from hydrants similar to the discoloration of water in that jar, we have ran those samples through our testing, and they've come back absent. Even though aesthetically, you looking at it and appearing at it, it seems displeasing, right? Because it's a secondary contaminant visually, right? But ultimately, as we've ran those tests and as we've pulled water out of those hydrants as well as the taps, those tests have come back as absent, so it is safe to use. So I want to make sure that's very, very clear. And it's obviously it's below our standard, right? And we want to get it back to where it needs to be. So
Great.
Yep. Thank you. Okay. So with that, this is a map before you that kind of shows you an overview of the city. As you can see, more so on the northeast side of the city is where those calls came in and are more predominant, if you will. And so that area, well, as a whole as a city, we have about 26,000 connections. So there was roughly about 100 calls that came in there again on the weekend. So here are some of the sampling and testing things, parameters that we check for. So sulfate, and these will be the daily ones I'm reading first. So sulfate, magnesium, conductivity, total dissolved solids, dissolved oxygen, hardness, turbidity, color, alkalinity, iron, pH. And then for routine and investigative sampling, we test for chlorine residual and coliform bacteria. And then on routine sampling, we test for lead and copper. Okay? So that translating over into our water quality analysis and table. So this is the data inputs off of those sampling and off of the tests that we run. So this is going to be a water quality report that we are in the process of publishing as it stands right now, and this goes out annually, and we will be mailing this out to our residents in the next little bit. I don't have a definite timeline or date as to when that goes out, but we are working with the publishers as we speak. So with that, there's different categories in there, as you can see, with microbiological contaminants, inorganic contaminants, disinfectant byproducts, radiological chemicals. Okay. Continuing on some of that. Lead and copper testing. As part of our routine lead and copper testing, we also additionally in the last several years have been putting together a lead service inventory. As part of this, this was there again several years, spanned several years, And of recent, the water service inventory for Ogden City has been classified as non-lead. Why that is important is we know that how harmful at times and toxic lead can be. And so with that, I think that's important to note with our infrastructure, especially that we've been classified as a non-lead. Okay? For more additional information on this and how this was determined in this classification, please visit our webpage. We have additional information in the process of how we came to that. Okay? Out on this north area, I think it's important to note these are all the projects that have been taking place out in that area. So this isn't citywide. There's many more projects that we've accomplished citywide, but this is more specifically to that area that's experiencing some of this discolored water. So as you can see, there's a great amount of work that has been accomplished in the past years, but our work's not done. We want to be able to get a lot of the other infrastructure and pipes that are older replaced. And so that brings me to my next slide here. So we have currently under design and being planned the 1200 North project, as well as the Canfield and Lockwood project. So these are actively being designed and are scheduled to be constructed in the year 2026, as well as some of these other projects that are here in the near future that we are going to be focusing on getting replaced, as well as many, many other projects that are listed in our master plan. It's got several different years that it basically goes through and identifies projects, but ultimately it's a big master plan that identifies a lot of projects out in this area that we want to emphasize we're focusing on and working towards. So, okay. With this, I just want to say, once again, we are committed to ensuring the safety and the reliability of drinking water for the residents of Ogden. We really appreciate and can't say thank you enough for your patience and cooperation as we've gone through and we've maintained and improved our water system. We know that it's not without struggle and with challenges, and you guys have been there right with us. I really apologize for any type of inconvenience. That's not our intentions at all. We're trying to deliver the most purest, cleanest, safest water we possibly can at any given moment, and so that's what we will continue to do. Currently, we have crews out proactively, routinely flushing the system daily, and additional samples above and beyond our routine sampling are being performed there again to ensure the safety of the water. We have an on-call 24-hour a day emergency standby crew standby individual that can dispatch crews at any time if and when emergencies arise, as well as we've recently been engaging and talking with an engineering consulting group in an effort to try and help more strategically approach and address the system in this area. Okay. With that, I just want to say this is our water utility crew, and these are the men and women behind the scenes that ultimately are the individuals that make it happen and make the magic happen, and are the men and women that I want to say thank you to, in that they consistently and every day show up and want to make sure that we are living up to our mission and our goals as in delivering the residents the cleanest water we can. So with that, thank you for your time.
Brady, can I ask you one more question?
Yep.
You know, all the things you tested for, I didn't see any test for, you had a total dissolved solids, a TDS test, but Laura's got a water sample over there that's got lots of undissolved solids. What do you test? How do you test that?
Organic, like material, like vegetation, moss, or scum, pond scum is what it looks like.
How do you test for stuff like that, or do you just look at it? Is that just
Russ? So with us too tonight, we have Russ Monson, who's our water treatment plant, who oversees that. I don't know if Russ wants to come up. So with our testing, there's two different parts, right? We have the testing we described is testing that is happening kind of in our system, but we also have testing that goes on every day in our water treatment plant, right? And that tests also our source water as well. So, but I'd love Russ to come up and talk about the what to your question here on testing and what's done with that, so.
That's the only test citizens really get to do themselves, because they look it down in their bathtub or their toilet or something, and they see it there, so.
So I believe the question was what to test for organics? Is that?
Well, it's just solids in the water that aren't dissolved. They're just floating there.
Right, so that's particulate matter. There's different tests, a lot of different tests. Usually the go-to would be the total organic carbon. That's the TOC is the acronym for total organic carbon, and it's measured in parts per million. And so if anybody has any kind of sample they're concerned with of what the total organic carbon is, mainly organics, not inorganics like metals and that kind of thing, but more of a biofilm, organic, algae, that kind of material would be the total organic carbon.
Yeah.
So there's a measurement for that, and that can definitely be tested.
Okay, thanks.
Are you currently testing that?
Yeah, we do routinely test for TLC. Yes.
So, wait, is this, yeah. Sorry, we just can't have a lot back and forth. Is there something that the homeowner can test for, or can they bring a sample in, like
Absolutely.
Laura has a sample?
Absolutely.
Maybe, I
Yeah.
just wondered what we can do on the back end as far as tell
So
people.
what we can do, we are a NELAP certified coliform bacteria laboratory, which means that we can test for record for coliform bacteria, which is a precursor to E. coli. Most people are familiar with that term. It's just a precursor. We can do that in-house, and we do those routinely. We do 92 samples a month. In addition to that, we can do the investigative samples, which is just in a 100 ml bottle, and it takes a 24-hour incubation period to determine the results. As far as the other indicators, we have a really good piece of equipment. It's a DR6000. It's a Hawk piece of equipment that can test for a number of different water quality parameters. But if there are certain things that we can't do at our laboratory that we're not certified to do, we send out with many other analysis that we have tested to a laboratory that we use for all of our routine sampling. That's what we would recommend if they're concerned and we want to have something sampled. We would discuss that with our group and see what best analysis would be ran for their concern. So.
Can I just ask a clarifying question just on top of that? Just thinking about, like, if you're at the water treatment plant and you're testing for something, I know part of our process also is to test out where people are getting it to. So maybe you could just talk a little bit about that so that residents understand that process.
Absolutely. Great question. Love to explain a little bit more how that works. So in the distribution system, which is kind of two major components of a water system, you have treatment and you have distribution. Distribution is where the discoloration is showing up the fire hydrants, people's taps. And so what we routinely sample for is disinfection byproducts. Those samples are taken at 8 different locations throughout the distribution system. And back to the total organic carbon, when there's a chemical, chlorine that's introduced into the water, which is what we do for to meet our standards, a byproduct is created, and that's a disinfection byproduct. So we do routine samples for disinfection byproducts. We also do, as Brady mentioned, lead and copper sampling. And then we also do our regular bacteriological sampling throughout the distribution system. The frequency is quarterly for disinfection byproducts, and the frequency for coliform bacteria is 23 samples weekly. And so that's where we get our 92 samples per month.
So if a resident wanted something tested, how would they do that? Call you?
Yeah, they could just contact the water department. We come out there, and there's some tests that we can do on site before it even goes to a laboratory, whether it's ours or a certified laboratory. We can do chlorine samples, iron samples. We can do a lot of benchtop samples on site before we even leave their home.
Taking the sample.
Just
Yeah, just taking the sample, yeah, it's just a matter of going out on site and probably going in with a couple of our staff into their area that they have concerns with, and we can actually just pull the sample right in a 200 or 300 mil container, and then take it from there. So
I think Ms. Lewis has a couple liters full right there that you might be able to take.
Well, this
Yeah.
is a few days old.
Chair, I have a question
A test
on
taken
the,
2 or 3 days is useless to us. We have no
what's the
water for
likelihood
3
that the
days.
sample or the water deceleration's coming from the city pipes versus inside the home? Because would there be a possibility that in the homes, those changes in temperatures would cause some of that to break down as well if it's older pipe in the home?
Yeah, there's always the possibility that, and we ask those questions, our staff should be asking the question of whether or not the home has soft water, do they have zero soft water? If they have soft water, do they know how much of their plumbing system actually is treated with the soft water? So a lot of those questions will set us up to where, you know, we can sample for really what we think may be happening in the home. Some people have their plumbing completely redone with the older galvanized piping to the PEX piping or some of the plastic piping. We don't rule out, just for the fact that they've remodeled their home with new plumbing components, that it's fine. We want to, you know, take a look at every household that has a concern and test accordingly.
Okay,
so
thanks.
I will say this, though. A couple things with comments that I've seen online. First of all, like, I've seen comments refer to, like, this is Flint, Michigan. This is not Flint, Michigan for a lot of different reasons. One, lead piping is completely different. In fact, in our surveys, we have not identified any lead service piping anywhere, and we've been looking for any sort of thing for 2 years. The other thing is we haven't changed our source water. In Flint, Michigan, one of the problems that they had is they completely changed their source water, and its alkalinity and pH was different and was more corrosive. And that was one of the things that led to the problem in Flint, Michigan. So our water has not changed sources. What this does stem from, though, is in this area is having these mineral deposits typically are iron related, and it's related to steel and cast iron pipelines, and they build up. And so when Brady referred to earlier as kind of these dead end lines, what he was referring to is like cul-de-sac areas where the use doesn't flow constant, like a main line that's carrying water to other areas. And so they build up easier on these areas. So that's where we like to be able to come. We'll flush these areas out. And obviously what happened in our system right here, we've had some deposits break loose. And so, you know, I'm not blaming any of our residents that they've done anything wrong. But one thing I would like the residents to understand is if you go back to Ogden City in the early 1960s, one thing that city leaders did back then is they didn't actually raise rates, and they didn't actually do replacement of pipe. So the city kept building out with not having pipe replacement, and that's led us to a point to where now we have a system that is approximately about $1.5 billion to replace, and they went 35, almost 40 years of not replacing pipes. And so that's one thing starting in 2008, the council and administration at that time, and this started because the north end of the city was actually out of water for 3 days. I can see Councilmember Heyer that remembers that, right? Yeah. And so it led to basically identifying that there was problems in Ogden City's water system because we haven't actively been maintaining it like it should have been. And so since then, there's been many projects done, the rates have been increased, and so we are playing a little bit of catch up on some of this pipe replacement, right? And I recognize that the council and administrations in the past started raising rates. We've continued that so that we could actively be out replacing these lines. So you're not going to see a cast iron or a steel pipe put in these areas. What you'll see is a new plastic pipe. Most of the lines in these areas are also 4 or 6 inch diameter. Everything new is at least 8 inches, 8 inches in diameter. Some lines, even in this area, are only 2 inches. So we've actively, through our master planning, identified these areas and are trying to go about fixing things in a way that's affordable to our residents while also trying to limit things like this. And so I do recognize this is inconvenient and problematic. And so having our residents be able to contact us, crews work very tirelessly to flush the system. That's the best thing we can do in this situation, is flush the system, because it is deposits breaking off for, as Brady said, probably a few different reasons, right? And so we were going to continue to actively replace pipelines in our city, and by doing that, it will also help reduce these type of activities that are happening. Now, we don't want to see them happen. We've done some research. I think one of the last time a major shakeup like this happened in the system in this end was about 2005. That was before all of our time working for the city, but we recognize that it has happened. We, again, actively try to flush this area, and in certain cases, we probably need to flush more. And so we are going to be doing that over the next few months actively. You'll see us out flushing more on hydrants. We also would appreciate if our residents, if they see somebody who's not a city personnel going out, or you know, with construction or something, going out and getting on a hydrant, please call us. Depending on how valves and hydrants are turned on and off, can actually cause fluctuations that cause this to happen. So we try to very softly turn on and close off in the right way so that fluctuations like this doesn't happen. So sometimes line breaks, just closing valves off can cause this to happen. So.
That's just one more follow-up question, because people were reaching out, but I was out of town, so I wasn't really called up. So they would call on the weekend or after hours, they would call this after hours number, and is there a person you said will be answering that, or is it a recorded line, or how does that work?
Yeah, so after hours, the number we gave out was our non-emergency dispatch.
Okay.
And so we need location. That's really what we need, is location that this is happening at, so crews can go out there and respond to that location. And that's day or night, right? We've got crews available 24/7, 365.
Great, thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for the report, you guys.
Yeah,
That's
thanks.
very helpful. Yep.
All right. Next on our agenda is public comments. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding any concerns on any topic.
I'm going to beat her this time. Again, I'm Joseph Bauman, lifetime resident of Ogden City. I just have a question. The pipeline that was put in, and if I remember right, I think it's a 42-inch line that went from the well field over to the west side of Pineview. It was done during the most inopportune time in construction, during the winter. And during the installation of that line, I've seen this numerous times in my own business in construction and other companies and stuff, that when the pipe was laid, the size of it, in my mind, I think this could have all been prevented if at the end of the line, when the well was turned on, if there was a shutoff, it could have been opened up and drained back into, say, Pineview Reservoir, or before it hit the treatment plant, and drained into the river to get the sediments out, because that stuff there is what Pineview Reservoir is on that north side where that well field is and where it goes across. So I'm wondering if it was poor workmanship potentially of the contractor that's installing the line. And I know the contractor, they're very good construction company, but it does happen. You get guys putting the pipe and they get debris into the pipe, and then what's happened is it's flushed all the way down when they open up the well field, and it ends up in the treatment plant. That's one comment. The other comment is all the construction. I really appreciate Brady. I sit on the Pineview, 3 different boards for Pineview, and we've coattailed with them and put in the secondary water lines, like up on Pierce. They just finished a big water project up there. They just paved it, I think, last week and finished it. But I appreciate Ogden City allowing Pineview to do that, because it's a big money saver for us with the construction going on at the same time. But that's just food for thought, that it may be not the well field itself that's kicking up debris, but debris that was put in the pipe accidentally during the construction phase and then washed down in the treatment plant. And then from there, when you look at the plan, where most of the incidence is, that's where the gravity fed is the highest before it reaches any place else of the city. That's the first place where it's going to go into. So that's just my opinion.
Thanks.
Looks like I'm first up on the golf course trails issue. I guess that's kind of akin to having first tee jitters. If any of you play golf, you know what that means. So my message, my issue is with safety.
Just state your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. David Lewis. I'm an Ogden City resident.
Thanks.
Yeah, safety is what's on my mind. And I play a lot of golf at Mount Ogden Golf Course. We heard a lot about the trail, about hikers. I was here last week as well. And I was very impressed with the decorum of everybody who had comments. Everybody was very, very well behaved, but it was about 400 to 4, so I thought I better speak up and say something. But back on the safety issue, I play a lot of golf there. It's not just hikers and the trails that intersect the golf course. There's a lot of pedestrian traffic on the Mount Ogden Golf Course, and there are people walking dogs, there are children playing, there are families and children playing all over the golf course. I even encountered at one point a family having a picnic on the number 6 green. The kids were playing in the creek, and there was a picnic, and I just had my bag and just walked around them. So, you know, you never know what you're going to encounter, but it's unusual not to encounter somebody or somebodies. And many of the shots on the Mount Ogden Golf Course are blind shots. And so you don't know who may be down there. Sometimes they're walking up toward a tee box and you can't see them. You're hitting down. So we have all of those things to contend with. We heard last week from I'm not sure if the Ogden High School track team or the cross-country team was here, but there was a large contingent from the Weber State University cross-country team. We know where they are. We don't always know when they're going to be there, but we know typically where they run. With everybody else, you never know where they're going to show up. So it could be anywhere. We hear these horror stories, stepping away from the Mount Ogden Golf Course for a minute, but we hear these horror stories in Utah, in the country, about dangerous intersections, about dangerous roads, about citizen outreach for things like a crosswalk or a crossing guard or a traffic signal or a pedestrian overpass. And I don't have the data, but I believe that to a large degree that when a pedestrian overpass is built or a traffic light is installed, it comes after a fatality. And I don't want to see that happen in Ogden. I know this is a tough issue. Thank you very much for your attention. No matter which way the decision goes, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you heard him say this was, Laura Lewis, Ogden City. This is clean. Would anyone like a drink? And this isn't as bad as it was either when it first started. But what I heard was a lot of excuses as why we're in this situation, not a lot of solutions. Testing is not valid because you can come to my house and before you get the test results, I've been without water, however long it takes you to get that, because I wouldn't dare drink it. So there needs to be something done, and I heard you blamed the turbulence in the line for breaking things loose. This is not stuff out of the line. This is contamination. And you should have known, I think this is the day you plan to reconnect that, May 9th. You should have known the pressure in that line and the capacity of your lines in the neighborhoods and controlled that. So we didn't have this. This was basically a disaster, and we've had a lot of water issues. And this, to me, is the worst of everything, and I feel like it could have been prevented. And you never notify us. We never know until we have black water in our toilets or run our bath water. By that time, we've filled up our water heater, our washers, and everything else. I also would like to know, what is the consequences of this in our sewer lines? How much of this is building up in our sewer lines over time? I know I have a belly in my line, so is it filling up with all this sediment and debris and making that problem worse? But, and also, don't blame the homeowners. They did that to me one time before. Told me the problem at 5 o'clock at night, that's your problem. And no one else has complained. Well, it turns out nobody had turned on their water. So they basically abandoned me at 5 o'clock until someone else told them the same thing. They wouldn't send anybody out to do anything. This is a problem with Ogden City. And it needs to be addressed. Even when the sediment isn't in the water, it stinks. I've had to buy bottled water. I can't stand to drink the water. And we're paying premium prices for our water. And this is unacceptable. And I don't care how clean you tell me that is. Nobody's going to put their baby in that to take a bath or want to drink that. And I just think, you can't go back and blame what happened 20 years ago. We've had all those years to make amends for that. Why wasn't there, if this happened in 1960, well, what happened over the years up to this point? Why couldn't somebody have made these changes? But I just feel like this is something that needs to stop and be corrected. And to read social media, because I'll bet you there's more than 100 people out there.
Thanks, Laura.
Hi, Caden Sparks from Mount Ogden Golf Course. Council members, I stand before you this evening to address a matter of public safety regarding golf course access from Gibbs Loop Trail. Over the past month, we have heard hypothetical narratives regarding the true danger that is present today. I won't be talking about hypothetical scenarios. I will speak of real-life example. I invite each of you to visit Sleepy Ridge Golf Course in Orem, Utah. To the right of the 16th tee, you will find a memorial for Aria Hill, a 6-year-old girl who was struck and killed by an errant tee shot. At this memorial, golfers and visitors honor her memory by leaving golf balls, each one a silent testament to what happened that tragic day. This simple yet lasting gesture serves as a daily reminder of the risk posed when golf courses and pedestrian pathways intersect. While the memorial reminds us of a life lost, it also shows us a pressing need for change. We should not consider the death of Aria Hill an isolated incident. It should be a wake-up call for all of us. Must we wait for an Ogden citizen to meet a similar fate before we recognize the danger in front of us today? It is not a question of if, it is a question of when. The Mount Ogden Golf Course situation is far more dangerous than at Sleepy Ridge. Aria was in what many would consider a relatively safe area, parallel to the golfer. However, walkers and riders at Mount Ogden Golf Course cross 3 fairways and are directly in the line of fire. I urge this council to help protect all Ogden citizens, whether they are golfers or pedestrians. If this means closing access to the golf course through Gibbs Loop Trail, so be it. In closing, I pose this question. If the exact situation facing us tonight were presented to the people of Orem, how long would the discussion last? Not weeks, but mere seconds. Those people would be insulted that anyone would even put on the table such a proposal. Then the hapless presenter would be shown the door ever so quickly. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to offer the council my best thoughts. Good evening.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Steve Hall. I'm an Ogden resident. I stammer a little bit. Don't be uncomfortable. I just do it, and the only thing bothers me is when it makes you uncomfortable. Mr. Mayor, City Council members, friends, and neighbors, I offer 10 brief points I believe relevant to the issue of pedestrian paths that cross the Mount Ogden Golf Course. A public path that runs through a functioning golf course is a prima facie dangerous hazard, a hazard that should have been resolved before the golf course ever opened. The solution to block off the golf course is not unreasonable. In fact, most people will view poorly any solution that does not remove the existing hazard once and for all. Walking the longer perimeter of the golf course on a foothill trail or a park path is an elegant alternative and an insignificant price to pay for eliminating the hazard. Justifying walking on the intruding paths with, "I've walked the course for 25 years and I have never been hit," is as logically empty as, "Why should I buy smoke detectors for my home? My house has never caught fire." Sorry. To you, Mr. Mayor, and to the council, I respectfully offer the following. Deciding whether or not to mix a pedestrian path and a public golf course on the same ground is a very easy decision. Certainly consider fairly and fully all substantive concerns. Deal with the significant, dismiss the trivial. Please do not be made hostage to unhelpful minutiae, complaints, and objections. Negotiate and compromise as you see fit on the tangential aspects of the problem, but do not compromise on the core issue of pedestrians on the golf course. A partial solution helps no one. Mr. Mayor, to you and yours, what you are doing should have been done years ago. You are doing the proper thing and you are doing it properly. To you all, I say well done. To my neighbors behind me, I ask, accept that the city and the golf course are trying to reverse a genuinely dangerous situation. If you don't think the situation is dangerous, visit number 16T at Sleepy Ridge Golf Course. Let us all do the right thing. Let us all put personal preferences aside, accept reasonable alternatives, and simply do that which we know is right. Do not castigate the city. Do not castigate the golf course. Thank them. Let's do this the Ogden way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anna Graff, Ogden City resident. I have some comments about the Adams redevelopment area. I have a couple of concerns about it. One is that as the neighborhood develops more, property taxes go up because it's a better neighborhood. What concerns me is that you have long-term residents there that are now, the property taxes become too much for them to be able to afford. And we have talked about affordable housing. Part of that affordable housing is making sure that property taxes aren't so high that people can't afford to live there anymore. My personal property taxes, I think, have gone up in the last 4 years about $1,500. That's something I can afford, but I do know that I have neighbors who that would definitely put a squeeze on them, people who've been there a lot longer than I have. My second comment on this is the things that we are helping to develop, I know are things that I appreciate that they're being developed. I appreciate that we're trying to preserve older buildings. However, I also know that a lot of those things, the developers that own them are businesses for them. They're not people who live in the area. I know that the Perry Apartments, I'm pretty sure that the developer is a California developer. And so we're putting taxpayer money into developing areas that are now making a profit for someone who doesn't live in the area. And I'm just wondering how, it just seems to be a disconnect there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Sanchez. I kind of wanted to talk about the water a little bit. It just kind of concerned me. I don't know that E. coli in water ever is good. I just want to make sure people realize we put people on antibiotics because they get E. coli where they shouldn't have E. coli. like in the sewer. It just kind of concerns me because I had, my parents had a family friend that she lived in a trailer in another state, and they came out and tested her water, and she didn't have money to go buy bottled water. They said it was fine, and that little baby ended up dying, and they came back and said that she should have bought water for the baby instead of using the tap water, but she didn't know what was in there. So it kind of does scare me a little bit. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is we talked about the golf course last week, and we have people here, and really, I kind of am probably like all of you, and it's like we can't risk safety. And how do we make this work so that everybody is somewhat happy, or is the happiest that we can be? So are we getting together and having some meetings so that we can figure this out? Because we want everyone to be happy. I was going to take up golf, but now I'm terrified because I'm not very good, I don't think, and I don't want to kill anybody on the first try. So I just would hope that we are doing something. So I did buy some clubs. I'd hate to return them without at least trying. So if we could just maybe get a update on that, and is there something that the citizens need to do, or is there signs out there so that at least people that are going hiking or just enjoying a family picnic, do they realize they're on the green? I mean, I was just kind of questioning that as well. Thank you.
Hi, Travis Pate. I'd just like to comment the dynamics that I've seen. I've had 2 opportunities in our neighborhood to have water running down the gutter, and one time it was late at night, another time it was during the day. And many of you know my stepdad had an opportunity to just actually visit with an old friend because they said, oh, I know a guy that lives right here. And I said, right there. And I point my flashlight down the street from where the water leak is. And Frank's like, what are you doing out here? And I think it was Espinoza, or I think was the name. And they said, what are you doing out this late? But it's neat to see, to me, is that it's all levels are out at night also. It's not just a night crew, that the time to make the donuts guy like you see on the Dunkin's commercial. I just think to me, it's the staff should be celebrated because it's all levels that are on call, and I think that's to be applauded. I think the other dynamic to me that I've seen is the individual that first proposed the water system for Pineview Dam, Hiram H. Spencer. His property continues to be under threat. I'm hoping that it's not his original house and family home. Right next door to his is the individual that proposed the artesian wells, which is Mayor Fell, and even one of the artesian wells was named the A.G. Fell well. And I just think that when we kind of come back on this, and yet we kind of do ourselves a form of demolition by neglect because we don't research the property where the development is going. And I think that's coming up on the next thing with the Adams Avenue property. You got the Gilchrist family at 2637 Adams Avenue, and someone comes in and says, hey, I want to do this, and I want you to give me $4 million in TIF. And, well, what was on the property historically? And yet, even on Weber State's website, you can go and see Leslie Hodson building plan for 26th and Adams that was never built. And so I'd say, hey, business partner, let's look at this. Here's a development opportunity that you're bringing to us, but here's something we can counter because you're asking us and you're asking school children to go without till this TIF pays off. And so here's something that we'd like to do, and we'd like to reinvest back into the neighborhood, the historic elements, the proper setbacks. 26th and Quincy is a perfect example. It's the IGA block. We just built right to the corner because we can, and there was already a horrible accident on 25th and Quincy. because of the blindness that that now building that pushed right out to the corner has created. So possibly on that stop sign, cross traffic does not stop. There's other things that we are allowing encroachments. They asked, Councilmember Heyer asked years, is there encroachment when in residential encroaches on business? Residential is encroaching on business on the Adams Avenue area. And so I'd say we need to reevaluate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Travis. Anyone else? I don't see anyone else online. We will not have a public comment in redevelopment.
I got online.
Oh, thanks. All right, Wesley.
They went away.
Yep, they went away.
Just to clarify, Chair, there will be comment during the public hearing, right?
Yeah, there'll be, yes, just not public comment in that.
I think maybe Wesley's back.
Yeah, Wesley came and he's gone again.
Give a couple more seconds, maybe. All right, well, yep, there he is. Quick. Wesley.
All right, can you guys hear me all right?
We can.
Perfect. My name's Wesley Calgren, Ogden resident. I just want to respond to a few of the golfers that have stood up. I want to be perfectly clear. We're not trying to say that we realize that the current route through the golf course is unsafe, but we are pushing to try to find a route through the golf course that is safe. And it would be really nice to work together with you guys to maybe find a route that we could all work together and perhaps come up with a solution for a pretty easy route through there. We're not saying, because there is a way to get through the golf course without crossing any fairways. Like I said, we've run through that golf course quite a bit, and I know you guys expect us to run through there sometimes. But like I said, there is a way to reroute the current trail that is in there, and so that we're not crossing any fairways for anyone. And I think a good effort could be made to do that, because safety is at the top of everyone's list. We don't want anyone getting hit with golf balls either. And I think it's very important for everyone to realize that safety is our top priority too. I want to be perfectly clear. My personal experience is running through the golf course. I've never been almost even hit with a golf ball running through the fairways personally. But running on Gibbs Loop, I know I've had to dodge 3 of them at least. And I've been running on the team for a while. And I also want to bring up another point too, and this is just after the last meeting that we had. Gibbs Loop isn't going to be able to handle a lot of the traffic that's going to come upon that trail. It is starting to erode, and that is another thing we're going to have to think about going forward if we do end up not making a easy solution through this golf course upon Gibbs Loop. So council members, I want to address that to you guys too, to be thinking about these things and the consequences it could have on some of our other trails that can't handle the more traffic. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Wesley.
Can I comment on the golf course?
No, you already made your comment tonight, sorry.
We only get one? I had 48 seconds left.
Should have used it. All right, any more other than that? Any other comments?
Deny or not?
No.
You could definitely reach out and email us or give us a call, though. We'd be happy to hear from you.
It's a good comment.
citycouncil@ogdencity.com. You'll get all of us that way.
or mayor at Ogden City. All right. Any more public comment? All right. Well, let's just try to address some of these real quick. Let's start with, thanks for, I think, those that are coming out and still speaking about the golf course. I think there has been, I don't know what you've done from the administrative side. There are obviously some safety issues, and recognizing that the runners going through there, I think that they haven't been hit yet, but if it's not when, but but when, there we go. So I do want to follow up with you, Mayor, about that and what you're doing next on the course. So if you could answer that.
I'll start with that one. Kind of get into Linda's ask for an update, but also some of what Wesley shared, because I think Wesley had some good comments there too. Like I mentioned last week, one of the things that I heard in all the discussion is there's a difference in the way we're discussing trail crossing and just outright golf course access. There's runners and riders and dog walkers, et cetera, that are walking anywhere and everywhere across the course, and I have not talked to very many people that find that to be acceptable. There are some people that are doing it, I recognize that, and I think we all wish we could have carte blanche access anywhere and everywhere, but I don't think it's appropriate that we have people walking anywhere and everywhere across our golf course. I think golf courses are generally for golfing, trails are for trail use, but with that recognition in the public comment last week, I did ask our staff to look for opportunities to, because if you look really closely at the map, if you go on site and look at where these crossings currently have been happening, they could not be more poorly located for safety, frankly. They are in the worst locations, and those crossings can't be allowed to remain. And so currently it does still remain closed to that kind of access. But I do want to know if there are opportunities for rerouting, and I've asked our staff to do that. But also the group that came and spoke with us last week has really been been quite constructive in the input. The map that the Weber State coach shared with us was really similar to what some of the concepts our staff was looking at. And I know that they put a map to us that, with some modifications, could potentially be an option. I do need to still say that I want to evaluate what the risk would be. I personally would like to go on site and see what that path looks like and see what the buffers are, et cetera, between different uses. But my entire goal all along has been to allow for everybody to have access and opportunity to outdoor recreation, recognizing that not everybody recreates in the same way. This is something that I'm really accustomed to from my past career, that there are multiple uses in the same areas. And there does come a time where we've got to manage those uses to make sure that everybody has an opportunity. That's what I'm after, whether that means going back to what Gibbs Loop was intended to be, that's why it's called Gibbs Loop, or some sort of a reroute and minimization of risk to potentially even eliminate the risk, depending on the location and opportunities. So that's where we're at. We've got a meeting scheduled with some of those stakeholders tomorrow, I believe. And they'll be talking about what that reroute might look like. I think that there could be options for short-term and long-term considerations as well. If there's something we can do in the short term to minimize or eliminate risk, and while we work toward a longer-term, more expensive capital investment that would eliminate it. But again, I need to understand what the risk is, and I know that there are cases around the country involving golf course accidents. I want to know in a lot more detail, including potentially third-party input on liability from someone that doesn't have any skin in the game. So I think that might be a golf term, actually. Is it? Okay, kind of. Sorry, I'm that bad at golf. You may have seen me. But so that's where we're at currently. To Wesley's points, the citizen input's been well received, and quite constructive in our conversations with our staff and with me. So that's where we're at right now. It does remain closed currently while we look at all of these options. Unfortunately, we are seeing vandalism and theft every day, it seems. So our staff is putting a lot of effort and resources into making sure that people know that they're coming upon a golf course. And I do want you to use your sticks. So there's definitely an opportunity. 18 holes at Mount Ogden, 9 at El Monte. And we're going to make sure that we're providing a safe environment for everybody to recreate and participate. And thanks to all the stakeholders that have reached out and are doing so with us collaboratively and constructively, I believe. To Joseph Bauman's question about the 42-inch pipeline, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we got engineers and water experts here too, but that kind of an incursion of sediment would have been pre-treatment, and our treatment plant would have caught that kind of thing if that were a construction-related sediment entering. So what we're talking about is post-treatment within the system. And I want to get to Laura's comments about the information we shared. I don't want anybody to think that we're making excuses. I don't want anybody to think we're blaming the residents. I think, Justin, you said specifically this is not residents' fault. That's not what we're saying at all. What we're trying to do is just share everything we know, everything that we've done, all the things that still need to be done in an effort of full transparency. We are absolutely climbing out of a hole. You have to accept and admit that we are digging out a generational hole of investment for infrastructure, and it is super expensive. We're making generational investments right now with a water line that was over $100 million by itself. And some of the disruptions we're seeing in our system are not disruptions we've ever seen before, is my understanding. These are changes in pressure, changes in use and demand that we haven't had before. And so we're starting to see them for the first time, and although it's not uncommon in this kind of pipe, we are working on anything and everything that we can do to make sure it doesn't happen again. That's the point being that we're not offering excuses, we're offering solutions. The solution really needs to be proactive flushing is what they're proposing. That's something that lands on us. That's something that we need to do that focuses on primarily in the cul-de-sac areas, accessing those hydrants, because what is in that jar, I don't want anybody to leave here thinking that we find that to be acceptable. It is not acceptable, it's not palatable, it does not meet our standard, and we are not going to just sit by and let that continue to happen without doing anything and everything that we possibly can. Recognizing that we still have years of investments to get out of these kinds of water lines, and those investments are actually currently programmed, but I think we still need more to go. To Anna Graff's comments, if it's okay, I think we might actually be able to address those comments in our presentation, and if we don't, there'll be another public comment for clarification, if that's okay. Okay, thanks. Thank you to the golfers who showed up tonight to share your remarks. I really appreciate that you came and shared your perspective. I did not know about the course in Orem or the 16th hole and the 6-year-old child. I did not know that exact example, so thanks for sharing that. What I did know is that there is a really large and vibrant golf community in Ogden, as evidenced by the 80,000 annual rounds of golf that we play in the city, as evidenced by the absolute capacity crowd over the weekend that we were predicting, which was of significant concern. That is a testament to the incredibly great work that's being done by the staff, but also it's a testament to and a response to the demand for that kind of recreation too. And I want to make sure that we're highlighting that there is another community, another side to this that I'm also the mayor of, and I'm trying to speak for, even though they're not organizing and speaking in the same way that we've heard here in the chamber. Their access and their use is very relevant. It's very important, and I want to thank the golf course staff who spent the weekend addressing a lot of comments and questions in the golf community. I mean, back to back to back to back to back all day long as we had that capacity weekend. I do believe that we are beginning to look at records in course participation and access by the golf community. So when we are in this kind of a circumstance, proper land management tells us that we have management actions to take. Actions that ensure access, actions that ensure opportunity, and actions that ensure safety. So that's what we're after, and I think that we are on one option now, and we're exploring another potential alternative that could be a compromise as well. But I can't allow any compromise to be a compromise to safety. And so I'm looking at it from in a real pragmatic stance for making a decision that weighs risk.
Great.
I think I got everybody, I hope.
Yeah, and I thank you, Travis, for saying nice things about our staff too. They do a good job 24/7 as well, so.
And I did not get to Travis's remark, actually, and so.
Oh, you don't get it, you're done too, just like.
I'll let you take Travis, and whatever Travis doesn't get addressed,
I
that's
just
on,
was,
that's
you
on
know,
them.
What's fair was fair, you know,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
Sheriff, got a comment or two, I think that might be.
Okay, sorry, Mayor.
Linda, you picked up a great sport. You give me a call one day. My wife and I will meet you at El Monte, where you can weed whack to your heart's content with she and I, because we're weed whackers too. So just that's what you call us when we're not very good, right, Todd? Weed whackers.
Our staff is freaking out. They're like, uh-oh.
So anyway, no, I think that I just don't want you to give up on it, because it is a great sport. But I also want to kind of stick up for our staff, our public works staff too. Is, you know, they can only deal with what there is, and that's what they're doing, and they're doing the best of their ability, 24/7. I really get a little testy and defensive when people start attacking them when they're doing their very best to serve all of our citizens. It's an unfortunate circumstance. I know what tuberculoids are, and just if I can give my explanation, they're kind of like a rust blister on the inside of a pipe, and they're very fragile. And when something changes, they break off. And that's just because there's iron or steel pipe that we don't even put in anymore. So we're doing our best to solve the problems. It is unfortunate that we have turbid water, and I got a call Saturday morning pretty early to alert me to this problem from our staff, so that I would know. So when people call me, which I did receive several calls, they're being as proactive as they can possibly be. They've got great hearts. They're good people. They're knowledgeable. They're not stupid about this stuff. They're just, let's get behind them. Let's help them the best we can. Let's not ridicule them. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments?
I have a couple, and they're not golf related, so I know you can take a deep sigh of relief. Well, I've got some, but no one wants to hear them. So, first of all, I would like to thank Goal Foundation for being here tonight and for inviting us all to the Ogden Marathon and for the great event that they're going to put on, and they put on every year. I would encourage anybody that has the opportunity to go downtown this weekend to go down. It's a wonderful, wonderful event, and then the downtown is just phenomenal, and it's really a fun community gathering, and I think everyone should experience it at least once, if not every year. Good luck to our own council member Richie, who's attacking the 26.2 miles, which is amazing for anyone that takes time to think about that. It's like to Lagoon and back, just to think about it. And then to touch on what Justin talked about earlier, another wonderful event we're having here or coming soon is we do have the Marshall White ribbon cutting coming up, and there's signs out. I don't know if anybody has seen the signs, but the dedication will be May 22nd at 5 p.m., and I can't think of a better way to honor legacy of Marshall White than to show up and be there for that dedication. And then the grand opening will be the May 23rd, Friday the May 23rd at 12 p.m. And again, I think let's all honor Marshall White and the legacy he left by continuing to live out his dream, right? To go and recreate and build community and create relationships with our neighbors at a safe and now state-of-the-art facility that Ogden City has put together. So I think we've got some great things coming up, and just wanted to highlight those. I will say, legally or illegally, I was a patron of the Mount Ogden Golf Course Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I commend Todd and his staff. I think what they've done up at Mount Ogden, and I've said this for years, is truly amazing. That course continually looks better year to year than it ever has, and it's wonderful to me that the vision that Todd has for Mount Ogden and for El Monte, and the efforts that they go through to make them a wonderful amenity to the city. And so I think there's things that need to be done. I think there's things that need to be changed and addressed, and I think we can work through those things. So that's it.
Great.
Chair, just real briefly, I also, as Councilmember Heyer, I received a call from Justin as well on the weekend, just letting me know what was going on, and so I definitely appreciated that and reached out to neighbors who had previously had issues with the water. And I mean, it's a tough situation, and several of my constituents have said they just feel bad calling over and over again. And I said, just keep calling. They want to keep coming out. And she said that everyone's been super great to work with on that. And so very, very complimentary of the water folks. And so hopefully we do get this figured out and resolved, and we can all move forward on that. And if you're, good luck to Councilmember Blair as well. He's hitting that half marathon, and I think you'll probably want to be down there, at 8:30 to see you come through at the 1.5 hour mark or something like that.
On the moped.
On the moped, yeah. That's a good idea. But yeah, no, thank you. That's all I had.
Great. Any other comments? Mayor, I'm sorry, I did cut you off in your regular comments, so I apologize for that, but
That's
do you have
okay.
anything else?
I do. I just wanted to share a few things. One, thank you, Councilmember Heyer, for your remarks for our staff. One thing that I seen that I don't think anybody else would see that I feel obligated to share. That stress can be both acute. It can be either usually acute or it can be chronic. And I just want to say that what I have seen from these professionals over here, they have experienced and given themselves acute and chronic at the same time stress over this water thing. This is not something they take seriously. I mean, that they take lightly, sorry. And because they know that this is acute and chronic stress on the resident as well. This is very serious to them. I've seen the lack of rest in their faces and in their eyes in the past number of days, and I just want people to know that this is something that we take super serious, and that we'll continue to take seriously until we get it figured out. As for the calls, we need to be called. We want to be called, need to be called, we want to respond, and we want to be as fast as possible if this does happen again. Definitely learning lessons along the way. Hopefully that can help with that. I wanted to say good luck to Bart and Ken in the race on Saturday. I also wanted to pass along our condolences, Ken, for the passing of your father. Also to say that I won't be here next week. I'll be gone for a little while, just so everybody knows. I'll be gone. My father's not doing well either, and we put him on hospice last week, and so I want to be in Arizona with my family and with my father in his final days as well. So, Ken, your family is genuinely in my prayers right now. Thanks.
Thanks. All right.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Heyer, second by Councilmember Blair to adjourn this meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We have a couple of more meetings. If you don't mind, I just need to stand up for 1 second. I am sticking to my chair.
we have to leave it there for
No.
everybody? Maybe we should take it
Laura?
home or
Laura Lewis,
throw it away?
paging Laura Lewis.
Hey, Laura?
Did you leave anything here?
Evening, and welcome to our Redevelopment Agency meeting of May 13th, 2025. Please note that all board members are present. Present. First on our agenda is the approval of minutes. Regular meeting of February 11th to 2025. Board Member Blair.
Yes, I have reviewed those minutes and found them to be accurate.
The special meeting of February 18th, 2025. Board Member Ritchie.
Yes, I found those meeting minutes to be accurate.
The regular meeting of March 4th, 2025. Board Member Chaburka.
Yes, Chair, I've read those minutes and they're accurate to my recollection.
And the regular meeting of March 11th, 2025. Board Member Graff.
Yes, Chair, I've reviewed them and find them to be accurate. And I'll make a motion to accept all four.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Board Member Graff, second by Board Member Myers. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next on our agenda is public hearings for the Adams Community Reinvestment Area. Welcome back, Sarah. I don't know, y'all can't sit behind those posts anymore, I've decided.
Sarah.
Where'd you go?
All right, so the item we have here for the RDA board and your consideration this evening is as presented in the city council meeting. I did just want to add one item to the earlier presentation, which is that we have received approval from the Ogden School Board and the Weber County Commission on the amended interlocals with those taxing entities. So the item for consideration tonight is the amendment of the Adams CRA budget and approval of the amended interlocal agreements with Ogden City, Weber County, Ogden School District, and happy to revisit any of the slides from the earlier presentation if needed.
Sorry, writing notes. Any questions? All right.
And then we can touch on as well, I know there were some questions from the earlier public comment session that we'd be happy to touch on now if that's appropriate.
That would be great.
Okay. So one of the things that we look at with our CRAs is how we can support the long-term financial sustainability of our city. And I was thinking tonight there was a lot of discussion about infrastructure. And we know that Ogden's an older city with aging infrastructure. There are other costs that we have to address as well. And so we've looked at growth of the property tax base as one way that we can ensure that those costs are funded into the future, that we can take good care of our infrastructure. There are a lot of other funding sources that our great team here at the city can bring to bear on those projects as well, but we also think it's important that we have a strong and growing tax base that's generating property tax revenues that can be put towards projects like some of the infrastructure items we talked about tonight. So that's one thing. And then I think, we're certainly sensitive to increases in property tax. There are components of that that are due to the housing market forces that are in many cases beyond our control. A lot of the property tax growth that we talk about, or the property value growth that we talk about in our CRAs, is coming from specific projects. So either new construction or extensive renovations. Those are new investments in the community that are helping to grow that property tax base. And ultimately, as we think about those issues, we just believe it continues to be important to invest in our neighborhoods and make sure that we're creating quality places where people want to live. The other thing I just wanted to touch on, and we'll talk about this a little bit more on the participation agreement item, but when we look at whether we're going to incentivize a project with TIF, we do a but-for analysis. So we look at, would this project be feasible without the support of tax increment financing? And we have to see that, no, the project would not be feasible as proposed without our TIF support. So it's not something that's done to enrich developers, but it's done to make sure that we're achieving projects that fulfill the vision and the objectives that we have for a given project area. And just some examples of that are looking at adding density in and around our downtown core, shifting some of our development patterns. So if we want to add that density in the downtown core, we know that we'll have to shift to more of a structured parking. So those are things that we look at when we do our analysis of whether a project's eligible to receive TIF incentive. Is our support needed to achieve the outcomes that we've identified for our project areas?
Sarah, there was one thing, and I don't know if you can pull one quick comment that was made regarding that it's hurting our school kids. I don't know if you have that graph that you could pull up real quick. I don't know if you can or not, but I think there's a misnomer about how tax increment works, and so maybe just quickly going through that graph.
Right there.
Yep.
Okay. So just a couple things to hit on here. So the taxing entities, including the school district, they continue to receive the property tax revenues that they were receiving when we established the CRA.
So like in this example, it's the $60.5 million.
Yep, so all the taxing entities continue to receive property tax on that value, and you can see for the city in 2018, we were receiving about $188,000 in property tax revenue from that base year value. And then we do recognize there may be some natural growth in property values in an area over time. So that's kind of the baseline scenarios. There may be some growth, but there wouldn't be growth at the level we're talking about without our targeted TIF investments. So the targeted TIF investments are actually what drive much of that property value growth in our CRAs and ultimately result in a higher property tax revenue to the city and the other taxing entities.
Okay, thanks. All right, any other questions?
Just to, while you're kind of making points that are addressing Ms. Graff's concerns, can you speak to the idea that an investor that might be located out of state and reaping the profits of a project, it doesn't leave Ogden with nothing. We certainly benefit financially as a result of those investments. And even, if I'm not mistaken, you can speak to this, Sarah, even if we had a local investor bringing the project to life, it doesn't mean that they wouldn't reach outside the state potentially for financing of a project like that, which would distribute profits to a financier outside the state of Ogden. So if you could just kind of talk to the benefits that come to Ogden, even if it is some investment in some way, shape, or form that is located out of state.
That's right. So essentially, even if a developer or their lender or other investors are located out of state, our goal is to get a project that benefits the community and that aligns with the goals and objectives of our project area plan. So in this case, in the Adams CRA, that might be the Monarch is a good example, or it could be a market rate housing project. We're still getting something that benefits that community and that ultimately will grow the city's tax base. And we do look, as part of our TIF application process, we do look at the kind of a pro forma for the project. And if we were to see that our TIF was only going to really send those rates of return through the roof for the developer, that likely would not meet our but-for analysis. So we're not going to do a TIF incentive just so that a developer or investor gets a rate of return beyond what they would kind of by industry standard. We're just making sure that the project types we're interested in are feasible in our market.
Thank you. And it benefits those that will reside in a particular development as well. Mm-hmm. And it's not just tax increment that benefits the city, but a concentration of population that will spill its pocketbook into our downtown business area benefits our businesses and the sales taxes that they collect as well.
Absolutely, and we have done them for commercial projects as well. So the one that we've done most recently was tax increment financing incentive for the Williams International expansion, right. And that's also creating high-quality family-sustaining jobs for residents of the Ogden area.
Can I ask one more follow-up question? And I definitely have these conversations with you all and council members before too. But just to clarify, so within the Adams Avenue CRA, the homeowners or property owners that are currently there, will their taxes stay at that base level as well, or will they continue to grow at the regular amount every year?
So the tax rate will not be impacted by the creation of the CRA or the amendment of the budget that we're proposing tonight. The tax rate is set separately from this discussion. So the tax rate wouldn't change as a result of this. Valuations will change over time. So if a homeowner's property value increases, whether that be due to investments in the CRA or if it be due to changes in the housing market, that will be reflected in their annual property taxes.
That's what I thought was.
Can I just make one other, and the other side of the coin on that, the growth, economic development, and everything that we want to see. We heard from our police and fire benefits folks today, and we also know that will also bring increased costs to the city. And so I don't know if that's something that is built into the model when we look at tax increment financing, that maybe that's going to be a need. As we have higher residents, we have higher call volumes than anywhere in the state, and running the fire trucks at three-man teams should be at four-man teams from what we learned, and some of those things. So all those things do come together. And so anyway, I don't know if that's something that you guys on the economic development side of things look at with regard to planning for future public safety needs as well.
Not specifically. I think I would just say that in some ways it's built in, because by making these investments and growing the tax base, when the CRA term expires, we know that we'll have more property tax revenue coming into the general fund that can be used to support not just things like infrastructure, but also public safety costs.
Right.
Once that property tax revenue comes back in.
Thanks.
So these funds can be used to actually help the pipes.
Yep.
So I mean, there's a piece of that as well.
Right. Yep. Pipes, firefighters, policemen, roads.
All right. If there are no other questions, this is public time for public input. If you have input on the Adams CRA. Sitting back there.
My name is Thane Fisher, and good evening, Chair, members of the Redevelopment Agency Board. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight in strong support for the proposed budget increase for the Adams Community Reinvestment Area. I respectfully urge you to vote yes on this amendment. The Adams CRA encompasses some of Ogden's most iconic architectural buildings designed by Leslie H. Hodson. Buildings like the Bigelow Hotel, the First Security Bank Building, Utah Power and Light Building, the Forest Service Building, these structures are not only historically significant, they are essential to the cultural and economic fabric of our city. However, they require major investment to preserve. They reactivate and return to a productive use. Tax increment financing is essential in making these projects feasible. At Fisher Reagan Enterprises, we have had the privilege of revitalizing numerous historical buildings, many of them Hodgson design, which we're very proud of. And by leveraging tools such as new market tax credits, historical tax credits, CRA tax credits, these tools were used in the Monarch, which is a project we did. We also used them in Perry Apartments, which is a project we did. And they would have not been feasibly possible without that. And if I have a little more time, I'll try to explain on how that worked for both of those. Today, we are actively working on the redevelopment plans for the Utah Power and Light Building, the Bigelow Hotel, and several other historical properties. These plans hinge on the continued availability to Adams CRA support. The gap between restoration costs and market returns remains significant, and Adams CRA budget amendment helps those close the gap in a financially responsible way. Beyond the buildings themselves, the Adams CRA, and more specifically the Nine Rails Creative District, still faces challenges attracting the kind of retail, commercial, and residential activity that drives economic momentum. A yes vote today is more than a budget amendment. It is a recommitment to a shared vision for a creative, vibrant, and economically thriving Nine Rails Creative District. Thank you for your continued leadership, for honoring Ogden's architectural past, and for investing in its economic future. I don't know if I can, in 30 seconds, explain how the increment worked, but on the Monarch, up until January, we were upside down by several $1 million. And until the new market tax credits were forgiven, that flipped us. So we sat on an economically upside down project for 7 years until those tax credits kicked in, or actually were released. So these are a crucial tool in the redevelopment of these historical projects. If you have any questions, otherwise, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Thane.
Hi, Travis Pate, Ogden resident. I wanted to, the dynamic of just the presentation from the RDA meeting that says our mission, Ogden holds within its core an assemblage of historic, cultural, recreational, and natural assets that are unmatched along the Wasatch Front. Ogden City Redevelopment Agency envisions capitalizing on those assets to close fiscal and physical gaps within the city through targeted investment and transformative redevelopment of underutilized parcels to build a thriving community that improves the lives of Ogden residents and bolsters the city's financial health, stability, and prosperity. I think that's primarily, it's an amazing, awesome aspect. And then you go for the next page, real estate and land use, historic and cultural assets, transportation. I applaud that this project includes the Utah Power and Light Building. My mom took many a class there on how to save electricity, including on the old coil burner stoves that you bring it to a boil, your dozen eggs and put the lid on it and let it just sit. And then over time that cooks and you only had the burner on for XYZ amount of time. If you look at the auditorium and the historic aspect of the UP&L building and later sheriff station, later focus call center, absolute asset to the community. So I think that's just a great thing that this project includes. I'm concerned with the overburden aspect of what a skyscraper might do on that side of the street without the proper setbacks. We have the opportunity to look at 2 buildings built in the same time frame, Ladywood / Foxmore Apartments on 25th and Madison, and versus Elmhurst on Capitol and Van Buren. Capitol and Van Buren, Elmhurst sits back, it has the proper setbacks, you feel it's part of the neighborhood. Ladywood / Foxmore sits right forward on the street and kind of boxes its neighbors out of the neighborhood. This development goes right to the property line of the Adams Avenue CRA. If you look, the 2 properties, houses immediately to the south of this development were not included in the Adams Avenue CRA, nor was the Job Corps, the Job Services building. The original Job Services building, celebrated and designed and built by Eber Pierce's son, John L. Pierce, of D School fame, Weber County Library fame, and most notably the Stuart Bell Tower, Clarion Bell Tower at Weber State fame, and yet torn down for a big monolith as a downtown encroached up into the residential district. So I'm concerned that this monolith, if you've seen batteries not included, let's do that on either side of these 2 most notable homes. 4 generations in the same family. William Kay, the founder of Kaysville, and then later Adam Patterson Jr., the builder of all these amazing ships that I sent to you in a packet earlier with regards to the rezoning earlier. So I think we have the opportunity to celebrate this, but I'd hope as a developer that he would be sensitive to the neighborhood and not ask for waivers such as on the Perry Apartments, how long it took Landmarks to get it repainted back to proper color tones, and the Monarch building whose gate encroaches into the public right-of-way every time it's open.
Thank you.
So it's sad that we approach it and don't support the encroachments, so thanks.
All right, let's go online to Heath Sato.
Hi, Heath Sato, Ogden resident. I just, not in particular to this zone, but in general, when we talk about TIF, I just want to make sure that we include the conversation that as we raise values in areas, which has its purpose, we also raise property taxes on long-term residents, many on fixed incomes. So we have to strike a balance between improvement, growth, and keeping people in a bit that are already here financially okay. So that's just what I wanted to add into the conversation. Thanks.
All right, anybody else online? Anybody in the? Okay.
Not seeing any, Chair, I'd make a motion we close the public hearing on this item.
Second.
We have a motion by Board Member Ritchie, second by Vice Chair Heyer to close the public hearing. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? With that, we have a few motions.
Well, can we, I wonder if we just, can I ask a question or
Sorry,
point of clarity on one of the comments regarding the increased value of properties also equating to increased property taxes? And I don't know if that's an accurate statement in that we have, the way that the property tax system works, and I don't know if Sarah can address that or just briefly or just clarify how the property taxes, I guess, yeah.
If the value of your property goes up, your property tax does go up.
The rate
doesn't go
not
up.
necessarily.
The rate doesn't go up, but if my house goes up by $100,000, then the rate is going to be $100,000 more. I mean, $100,000 is going to be put into that equation.
Well, the mill levy may go down, may change that though. And
Well,
that's why I say it's a very complicated issue.
And I think the point, yeah, that when the amount of tax revenue that the city receives is it doesn't change based on the valuation of the properties, correct? Now, within that pool of properties, those can fluctuate, and I think we've seen, and again with the presentations in the past, that the property values can change, and the amount that somebody pays out of pocket can go up or down depending on everything else that's going on in the system. So I don't know. It is a complicated issue for sure. So
You ready for our motion?
Yeah, if there's no other comments, anybody else want to make any comments?
I just want to clarify for the people attending, we haven't yet discussed the incentive agreement or that specific project, right? So we're just going to be voting on these these other items, and then we also will discuss that, so that people get into more of the details.
Correct.
Yeah. There is the first one.
You ready? 1, 2, and 3.
I guess because they're
Yeah,
amendments.
this is, I think let's vote on these, and then let's come back, maybe we do public input on the last one as well, it's such.
Well, we haven't had the presentation on
Right,
that
so
yet.
that's, unless you want to do the presentation, and then we can vote for all of them at the same time.
Let's try that. That's a good idea.
Yeah, because we've got, okay,
Yep.
yeah, why don't you do that, and then we'll just, even though we've closed the public hearing.
All right. Good evening again, board members. The next item we have for your consideration tonight is a participation and incentive agreement to support the Alpha Malachite project, which is a multifamily residential market rate project at 26 and Adams. So we've discussed this a little bit in the prior presentations, but again, I just want to touch on a few highlights of the Adams CRA project area plan. Again, the plan for this CRA is really to create a vibrant mixed-use neighborhood with a high quality of life that helps connect our downtown core and our adjacent residential neighborhoods. That also includes a specific goal to facilitate the development and enhancement of housing in the CRA. In the project area plan, we also identify the tools that we may use to achieve those objectives, and one of those is the use of tax increment financing as a financial incentive to encourage certain types of development that support our objectives. So the project that we're looking at this evening, as I mentioned, it's a market rate multifamily housing project at Adams Avenue and 26th Street. The project would overall have a mixed-use setting thanks to an adjacent commercial renovation that's being done by a separate developer but planned in close coordination with the residential project. And that commercial renovation is the historic Utah Power and Light building on 26th Street. The residential building itself would include over 100 new units ranging from studios to 3 bedrooms. They would be highly amenitized. Just to some of the earlier discussion we've had here, we're pretty excited to bring this market rate project forward. I think we've seen in recent years that a lot of what pencils without RDA involvement are income restricted housing projects. That's an important part of our overall housing strategy, and it will continue to be so, but we want to make sure that we're maintaining an appropriate balance. And as we build income restricted units, we want to make sure that we're building market rate units as well and kind of maintaining that overall balance. So having this as a market rate project in the Adams CRA, we think would help achieve the balance, not just for the city, but also for this CRA area in particular. In our review of this project, there are a couple specific project elements that we identified as eligible for the use of TIF. That includes 65 structured parking stalls. There would also be some surface stalls, but that's greatly reduced by the structured parking that's proposed for this project. There would also be outdoor plazas and walkways that would connect to and enhance the Nine Rails Creative District, and high quality exterior finishes that would complement the existing Utah Power and Light building. This is just a photo of a little bit of the current site condition. This is looking down the alley just west of the Utah Power and Light building. The site plan is a little hard to decipher here, but this would essentially become a walkway that would be available to the public during daytime hours. And there would be a new plaza built just behind the commercial building that would be available for the public to use, as well as residents of the Malachite apartments. So we then move to our analysis of TIF from this project. We're looking at an estimated private investment of about $35 million in this apartment project, along with additional investment in the renovation of the Utah Power and Light building. So when we look at what new property tax revenues would be generated from those investments, the project would generate about $4.7 million in tax increment by the end of the Adams CRA term in 2044. And as we looked at the numbers, as I mentioned, we like to do a but-for analysis and verify that the project as proposed wouldn't be financially feasible without our TIF support. And you can see here some of the costs of the elements that would make this project infeasible without the TIF support. That includes $3.25 million for the structured parking in the project, roughly $1 million in some of the plaza and public space improvements that would contribute to the Nine Rails Creative District, and an additional $1.5 million in exterior finishes that would really complement the Utah Power and Light building. So those are the costs we've looked at as we've thought about our TIF and ensuring that it's used to make this project feasible, with a focus on making sure that the project can include structured parking rather than all surface, and that it includes some public space improvements that will really enhance the Nine Rails Creative District in the Adams CRA. And I believe that's all we've got. Happy to take any questions.
I have just a couple questions, if that's okay. I really, really love the look of this building. I do share the concern that Travis brought up about the height difference right next to the residential. So how have you kind of thought through that?
Yeah, so one thing I just wanted to mention is that our participation agreement is subject to the project completing all the necessary planning and permitting reviews. So if, for example, they weren't to receive the planning approvals that they need for this project, we would not move forward with the participation agreement. So I think we've really looked to our colleagues in planning and building permits to make sure that this project complies with the requirements we have for that zone.
Was that the same for the setbacks too, that you brought up?
Yep.
Is this the final, I mean, I know it has to go through all that process, but that image of it being so close to the sidewalk, is that the final design, or is it just a rendering?
It's close to final. They are currently in site plan review and have received comments back from all the departments that review here at the city. I don't believe that's been flagged as a concern or an issue under our current zoning code.
Any other questions? All right, so this is not a public hearing on this one, so we can, there are no other questions on that. Councilmember Chaburka, you're good?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right. So is there anything that we need to address on these? No? Okay. All right, with that then, I'm ready for a motion on these.
Chair, I make a motion that we adopt proposed resolution 2025-6.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Heyer, second by Board Member Blair, to adopt proposed resolution 2025-6. This is a roll call vote.
Board Member Blair?
Aye.
Board Member Chaburka?
Aye.
Board Member Graff?
Aye.
Board Member Myers?
Aye.
Board Member Ritchie?
Aye.
Vice Chair Heyer?
Aye.
Chair White?
Aye, that passes.
Regarding proposed amendments to interlocal agreements, I support adoption of the resolution of proposed amendment 2025-7, 2025-8, and 2025-9.
Second.
So
close.
Yeah.
So close.
There's no.
Jeez. I have a motion by Board Member Graff, and I'll give it to Board Member,
Ritchie.
I'll give it to Board Member Ritchie on that one. To support, or to adopt three resolutions, 2025-7, 2025-8, and 2025-9. This too is a roll call vote.
Board Member Chaburka?
Aye.
Board Member Graff?
Aye.
Board Member Myers?
Aye.
Board Member Ritchie?
Aye.
Board Member Blair?
Aye.
Vice Chair Heyer?
Aye.
Chair White?
Aye, that passes. And
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve proposed resolution 2025-10.
I'll second.
we have a motion by Board Member Meyer, second by Board Member Graff, to adopt proposed resolution 2025-10. This is to a roll call vote.
Board Member Graff?
Aye.
Board Member Myers?
Aye.
Board Member Ritchie?
Aye.
Board Member Blair?
Aye.
Board Member Chaburka?
No.
Vice Chair Heyer?
Aye.
Chair White?
Aye, that passes. Board Member Chaburka?
Yes, I just want to say that I agree with everything Dane says about all the historic assets in this area, and I really want to support all of those. I just do have those deep concerns that were brought up, and I brought up before. I wish that the commercial building was separate from the apartments, because I would definitely support the commercial building on its own. I love the way that the apartment building looks. Like, hey, I might even want to live there one day. I just don't know that it's the best use for me and my neighbors to be supporting it in this way. I do appreciate that it has the structured parking, which I know is a big part of why we have to support it. I just think that I should lend voice to some of what my neighbors are bringing up. Just this issue that we have also invested deeply in the neighborhood. And then, it does impact us at the bottom line too. So I just want to make sure I support them in that.
All right. Up next is reports from administration on the proposed fiscal year 2025-2026 budget. Geez. It's getting to that 9 o'clock hour.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, board members. Hope you won't fall asleep. This is exciting to be able to bring and share with you the proposed budget for next fiscal year for the Ogden City Redevelopment Agency. I'll go through this quickly because I know it is late. So As you can see on your screen, this is a comparison of the fiscal year 25 budget versus the fiscal year 26 budget in the RDA in total. So this includes all the areas that are considered. You can see that the tax revenue is proposed to decrease in total in fiscal year 26, and that is mainly due to 2 areas that are expiring that I'll talk a little bit more about here in a minute. And then as far as other revenues, those are decreasing mainly due to we had some transfers in from BDO lease revenue in fiscal year 25 that those are not in fiscal year 26, and so that brings that other revenue bucket down as well. In looking at the different areas and what increment is projected to be received in each of those areas, this is that list. Again, you can see there what the fiscal year 25 adopted budget was versus the fiscal year 26 proposed budget. Fairmount and Lincoln are the 2 areas that have expired. And so with that, we will now expect to receive that property tax revenue for the city into the general fund. And so we're not budgeting any revenue in those areas. Some of the other things to note in this list is the amounts that are in there are projected based on increment that has been received this year and what's being projected for next year. So there is increases in some of those. A couple to note, there was an increase this year in the track line EDA area, so that one had a bigger increase over what was budgeted for in fiscal year 25. But overall, the tax increment is proposed to decrease by $600,000 in total, but for each of the areas listed, they're all increasing. Just for your information, the Fairmount and Lincoln districts, those expired in fiscal year 25. The next ones to expire in the list is the CBD Mall area. These 3 areas, CBD Mall, Ogden River, and Flagship, were all extended the CBD Mall and Ogden River were both extended 2 years with COVID, so those are fiscal year 29 and fiscal year 30 are the last years of those 2, and then Flagship in fiscal year 31. So those are the next areas to expire, so there's a few years between now and the next time we have any expiring areas. As mentioned earlier, part of the budget in the RDA is made up of funds coming in from the city, and this next year is no different. There are several items that are proposed to be transferred into the RDA into different areas for different uses. This is a list of those uses. The first one there is the Union Station land purchase. We have an agreement to purchase the land under the Union Station from Union Pacific. It's a 7-year annual payment of $780,000. We've been using BDO lease revenue to make that payment, so this is recognizing that transfer in to be able to make that annual payment. In the CBD area, we have quite a few debt instruments in that area related to the junction, and so we've been, as one of the items is we've been transferring from BDO lease revenue an annual amount to help that's gone towards the debt or any capital needs in the junction area. So that's included. We also have an interfund loan between 25th Street and the CBD Mall area. And in order to pay this loan off, this interfund loan, we try to come up with different ways that we can do that. And we want to have additional funding in the CBD area to be able to do a refresh of the junction. And a way to be able to do that and also take care of this interfund loan is by this mechanism where we're going to transfer funds into the 25th Street area to be able to then make that interfund loan payment back to CBD, which will then allow those funds to be used for in that area for a refresh of the junction. We did this $500,000 in fiscal year 25. We're proposing it again in fiscal year 26. And then to pay off the remaining portion of that interfund loan, that should be an additional $300,000 in fiscal year 27. So over those 3 years, and then we'll be able to take that interfund loan off of our books. We also have a loan with Golden West Credit Union for the St. Anne's purchase. It has been a mainly interest only, not interest only, but mainly interest payments that we've been paying with a large balloon at the end. Administration is proposing that we do a larger amount to that loan payment next year, and also the year after. It'll allow us to pay the loan off early. Currently, it's supposed to be paid off in fiscal year 29. This will pay it off in fiscal year 27 if we do the same amount again next year in fiscal year 27. In effect, that'll save us about $60,000 in interest. So we feel like that's a smart move to save us a little bit of interest on that loan. And then the final transfer in is into the Continental area for the Wonder Block bond payment for that development of $3 million, which that is the full amount of that payment. Once we start receiving increment related to that development, then that'll help offset the need of how much is needed to come from BDO lease revenue. But for fiscal year 26, it's that $3 million. And then if you'll recall, earlier we did a budget transfer from the city from BDO lease revenue for quality neighborhoods. Normally we do $1 million a year. Fiscal year 26 would have been the last year of this 5-year cycle we're in right now. And we did that, we brought that forward into fiscal year 25. So that is why there's no amount listed for fiscal year 26. So the total contributions from BDO lease revenue to the RDA is $4,850,000. This is for information on the amount committed to housing and to general admin for each area. Each area has its own agreement based on the area of what percentage is contributed to housing and admin, and it's based on the increment that's received. So this is calculated based on the proposed revenues that we're going to receive for each of the areas. So the total amount going to housing would be budgeted at $945,000, and for general admin would be $325,000. This is just a reminder, the Fairmount and Lincoln areas were both haircut districts. That increment was all going towards the CBD area to help as part of paying off the debt related to the junction. And so this is just to show you that with those areas expiring, those amounts are not being transferred to the CBD area. And so one of the things that we'd like to do, this is the debt that's still in the area. The 2018 series Recreation Center bonds, those were paid off this year in fiscal year 25. The 2016 Series A and Series B, which are also related to the junction, those ones are slated to expire at the maturity dates is in 2027, fiscal year 27. We're proposing, because of what we've done to transfer funds into the CBD area over the last few years, and we have built up enough fund balance that we would like to propose paying off both of those bonds early. So it would pay the remaining portion of those two debt instruments off in fiscal year 26 instead of waiting till fiscal year 27. And with that, there's also, I just wanted to jump ahead, there's also the Section 108 HUD loan that we had in that area as well that also is supposed to be in fiscal year 28 actually, to be paying off that one. And so between those three, we're proposing to fund enough of what's in the area currently to be able to pay off all three of those, all the loan and the two bonds in fiscal year 26. And in effect, that should save us about $100,000 in interest by paying those off. And we do have the funds in the area to be able to do that next year. So that is in this budget. And that's one of the items that's proposed before you to consider. And with that, so these are the other items, the other debt items in there. Just going back, we have the Wonder Block debt, and we also have a new one with the Forest Service building, which we need to bring an appropriation before you to recognize those proceeds still, but this is for the debt service related to the Forest Service acquisition in the Adams area. And then we also have the Section 108 note that's related to Trackline, which is the 2015A. And then I mentioned earlier the Golden West Credit Union loan that we're hoping to pay off in 2027 instead of 2029 is the plan. But with that, I would invite the board to accept for review and set the public hearing for the RDA budget for the fiscal year 26 year. Any questions?
Any questions?
Chair, I'll propose that we're setting the public hearing, right?
Yep.
For June 10th, 2025, proposed resolution 2025-11.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Board Member Chaburka, second by Vice Chair Heyer, to set the public hearing for proposed resolution 2025-11. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Look forward to more. Comments from the Executive Director?
Just one thing I didn't mention earlier that I wanted to mention was how hard our staff worked and how successful the Accelerate Wasatch event was today. We had people in town from all over the state and the country, potentially the world. And I heard the remark from a number of people about what an incredible job we're doing in Ogden and how vibrant our downtown is. And that come from a lot of people that had not been here in a long time. So thanks to a lot of effort from everybody at this dais and a number of countless others that came before.
Thanks. Board members. I started my day at that event, and when the lieutenant governor is talking about it, that's pretty impressive. So,
Motion to adjourn.
right.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Heyer, second by Board Member Myers to adjourn. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm waiting for the day somebody says no. All right, on to the next meeting.
Die waiting.
All right. Good, almost good night. But welcome to the Special Municipal Building Authority meeting of May 13th, 2025. Please note that all trustees are present. We have, up next is reports from administration on the proposed fiscal year 2025-2026 budget.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, trustees. I will make this one as long as I can. I'm just kidding.
Thank you. We hope so.
I really enjoy this budget because it's an important budget, but it's a simple budget. And so, as was discussed today in work session, the Municipal Building Authority holds the bonds for the parking structures that are currently being built at Wonder Block. And so, with that, there are debt payments associated with that. And so, this budget for fiscal year 26 is just over $4 million, and that's to be able to make the debt payments that are part of the debt schedule for fiscal year 26. The change in the budget from fiscal year 25 to 26 is just the change in the debt schedule. Any questions? I invite you to accept for this for review and set the public hearing for June 10th as well for the Municipal Building Authority.
Great. No, I just remember a few years back it was like $3,000 or something, so we've come a long ways.
Chair, I'd make a motion we adopt or accept for review and set a public hearing for June 10th, 2025 on proposed resolution 2025-3.
All right. Oh, sorry. I need a second first.
Second.
I have a motion by Trustee Ritchie, second by Vice Chair Heyer, to set the public hearing for June 10th on this proposed 2025-3 resolution. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. That passes. Talk about it again on the 10th. Comments from the president?
No comments at this time. Thank you.
Comments from trustees? All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion by Vice Chair Heyer, second by Trustee Graff to adjourn. This is a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Well done.
Now you just want